This is KSL News Radio,
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
9 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Tim Hughes with a look at some of our top stories. Many families in Utah pay hundreds of dollars in school fees as their kids head back to class, and the Utah legislature passed a law to help out. But the bill sponsors say they still need to make some adjustments before the bill goes into effect, like paying for class activities that happen outside of school hours. The Salt Lake City School District is being recognized by the U.S. Department of Energy for their efforts in sustainability. The district recently upgraded light fixtures in 34 schools and 3 district buildings. The upgrades include LED bulbs, wireless controls, and occupancy sensors and timers. Now our top national story this hour from ABC News. A moderate rise in the number of Americans filing for unemployment benefits last week, but overall the number of claims remains at healthy levels.
The Labor Department says jobless claims rose by 4,000 to 232,000 last week. For the week ending August 10th, 1.86 million Americans were collecting jobless benefits. Those rising numbers adding to evidence that higher interest rates are taking a toll on the U.S. job market, but still low by historical standards.
That's ABC's Dave Packer reporting. It's kind of funny. The headline on MarketWatch immediately on the heels of those numbers said it was up 100 points. We looked and we were down 60, so it's going to be a wild day. We're off about 54 right now. The S&P is flat, the NASDAQ losing about 17 points as we speak. Coming up, cooling off for the next couple of days and the return of monsoonal moisture. We'll take a closer look at your forecast. KSL News Time, 9:02.
News doesn't just mean information or dates.
It's the story of our local history being told in real time.
Be a part of the story. This is Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
We hope to be a part of your story. We have you covered on KSL News Radio.
My friends swim no matter the season, but my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis can sometimes take me out of the moment. Now, thanks to Skyrizi and clear skin, count me in. With Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. 3 out of 4 people achieve 90% clear skin at 4 months.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Ask your doctor today about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis, and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
September means it's time for Any Hour Services free furnace sale. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and as summer comes to a close and falls right around the corner, the weather gets, well, perfect. And when the weather's perfect, people need a little extra incentive to replace their heating and cooling system. That's where Any Hour Services free furnace sale comes in. For the month of September, when you have Any Hour Services install a new air conditioner, we'll give you a new furnace for just the cost to install it. About $400. The furnace is free. You just pay the labor. And there's no catch. There's no raising the price on the air conditioner first. There's no making you buy the most expensive air conditioner to qualify. There's none of that. There's just a desire to keep our technicians working while the weather's mild and a genuine appreciation of you for helping us keep them busy. So if you've been thinking about replacing your old furnace and air conditioner and want to know exactly how much you can save during our free furnace sale, call Any Hour Services today and schedule a free estimate. Google Any Hour Services or schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
This is the story of the one. As a warehouse manager, her job is to transform chaos into clarity and to see patterns where others see problems. Luckily, she's got a partner who shares her perspective. Grainger offers over 1 million industrial-grade products, backed by real-person support and in-depth online resources, so she can tackle every task with precision and turn potential setbacks into streamlined success. Call clickgrainger.com or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Get in zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Brakes? We can save you 15% on that. We have OE quality Duralast brake pads and rotors in stock, ready for pickup or delivery. We also have calipers, brake fluid, tools, and anything else you'll need to do the job right. When you get Duralast pads and rotors together, you'll save 15%. It's just part of what makes us America's #1 brakes destination.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Time for a look at traffic and weather together here, brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents a gallon. Heather Kelly's in the traffic center.
And we've got a crash eastbound I-80 just as you enter the mouth of Parley's Canyon, just past Parley's Way. It is blocking the right shoulder, but traffic is backed up almost to 1300 East in the Sugar House area. So that's a bit of a crawl for you. Southbound I-15 still under the speed limit from 53rd South and Murray down into Midvale due to an earlier crash. And in Utah County, a new crash near Main Street and American Fork has traffic backed up into Lehigh. Advanced Window Products offer Graber window coverings, high-end quality with the best warranty. Save 30% off when you mention KSL. AdvancedWindows.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Looking at some storms today, potential for flash flooding in southern Utah. And as a matter of fact, earlier this morning, Matt posted a X-post that said we had 2 inches of rain falling just west of St. George. So it's been a wild morning already there. Rain starting in the early afternoon this afternoon, still going to top out at 90. And right now it's 81 degrees. From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, I'm Tim Hughes, reminding you to listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
Well, with Dave Noriega still on vacation, I am super excited that for the first time ever in the history of this show, I get to welcome in Rusty Cannon, your frequent guest on the show, an expert on the show, president of the Utah Credit Union Association, formerly president of the Utah Taxpayers Association. We've chatted with you a lot on the air, and you're also kind of a newer host of KSL at Night. Hi.
Yep. Yes, it's good to be here. First morning show time for me ever, so let's see how this goes.
Well, we're going to get it fired up for you because we're going to talk about a really hot topic right out of the gates that a lot of parents, including yourself, can relate to: school fees. And then, Rusty, just for you, we're going to take live phone calls from our listeners to,
awesome.
to tell us how much they're paid this year for their kids to go back to school.
Dave and Dujanovic. Special coverage of the top local story.
Well, it's our top story, and it is certainly top of mind. I think public school is free, right? Oh, my property taxes pay for that.
You would think so.
My income taxes pay for that. Oh, until you get the bill for your child's high school fees. Hundreds of dollars. And Rusty, you said your kids go to school in the...
Davis School District.
So, okay. Tell us, what were the fees this year?
So it's interesting when I look back now. We just have one left in high school, but we've had anywhere from 1 to 2 to 3 in the recent years. So this is the amount of fees we paid in the last 3 years. 2021, we paid $2,409 in fees.
Okay, $2,409 for all of the kids?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
2022, $3,568.
Oh, it's getting worse.
Yeah, well, and then it got better in 2023, dropped to $960. Year-to-date 2024, we're at $1,294.
That's for this school year, because your kids just went back.
Yeah, well, it would include the spring, too.
The spring, too.
Yeah,
the
spring
whole, okay.
Yeah.
So how much this year?
So far, $1,294.
You think that might go up?
Oh, it'll go up. Yeah, if sports come into the picture, and to disclose, those fees include sports and marching band. Marching band was, I think, about $1,500 when we had our son in marching band.
$1,500.
Yeah.
I have my kids out of high school. They're on to college is expensive too. Don't get me wrong, but I do remember when we would register our kids for their high school year, in some cases even maybe junior high. I was always like, oh, that's a lot more than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
That's a lot more, and rarely did we budget enough money. We just come off family vacations and also like summer ball and some travel for summer ball teams, and I was always feeling like, my goodness, this just goes up more and more every year, and it gets more and more expensive. KSL Television's Daniel Woodruff speaking to some Murray High parents about the bill they got when they registered their daughter for high school. $500.
When we saw those fees, we were shocked. So all of a sudden you realize that, wait a minute, like those are kind of crazy. What happens to the people that are not able to?
So Rusty and I are going over the Murray High School district's fee schedule. What stands out to you?
Well, it's interesting. Just to change classes, we just went through that with our son, $10 every time you do that. Then it starts to get a whole lot bigger. But now a lot of these, they're listed as curricular fees, but they can be pretty big. If you want to do culinary arts, $585. That one stuck out to me. Then you have at CNA, I guess that might be nursing $202. A lot of these are the $20 to $30 range. It looks like for virtually all kinds of classes that I didn't realize were in. But even something as simple as Fitness for Life, they ding you an extra $20.
How about TV broadcasting? $60. TV broadcasting 2 is $45. Unified PE, physical ed education, $20. Social dance is $15. And maybe that's for, there's also some concurrent enrollment. You said Fitness for Life, that's $20. Mm-hmm. Food and nutrition.
So look at these. You go to co-curricular fees. Drill team, $3,700. All kinds of, other fees for, madrigals, $305.
I was in FBLA, Future Business Leaders of America, when I was in high school. I doubt my parents would have been able to afford $5,048.
That's a lot.
There's got to be an explanation behind why some of those cost so much. I do remember we traveled when I was in FBLA and participated in different types of competitions and conferences and events. It was a great experience. That's just a lot of money. Did you say marching band already?
Well, in our experience, marching band, I have not seen that on this list yet.
$951.
There it is, yeah. Yeah, and so at least in our case, the district really didn't have funding for that program specifically, so it fell on the students and the parents to come up with those fees. Plus, that doesn't even include the fundraisers that you're typically pulled into as well. Not pulled into, but it's just something that you want to contribute to help them out.
Well, we had that experience with softball and particularly baseball. Baseball, my son played baseball at Brighton High School. It was quite a few years ago since he's graduated. $830. But at least this is the Murray District's fee schedule, and we're using the Murray District's fee schedule because it's Channel 5 News. This is the story that caught our attention this morning. Is the story they did with the Murray High parents that paid for their daughter's registration fees, and it was $500. But the baseball here is $830. And then on top of that, I remembered, of course, different district where my kids went at the Canyons District. To your point about the fundraisers, we did an auction. We went out and we sold banners sponsorship banners for around the baseball field.
Yep.
So local businesses would help support the baseball team and also our kids' child's baseball experience. I know there's some efforts afoot on Utah's Capitol Hill to deal with some of these fees. We are working behind the scenes here with our producers to get somebody on the air in the 11 o'clock hour from Capitol Hill, one of our lawmakers who's been working to try to reduce some of these fees for families. And so we can get the ins and outs of where things stand there. But until that happens,
they're not going away. Yeah, in fact, the legislation doesn't kick in for another year. We'll talk about that as well. It takes some time to get the districts, everything figured out and all the ducks in a row. But the idea behind the bill, and we'll get into the detail later, was at least the general fees, right, for general purposes, need to go away or will likely be reduced or eliminated. These extracurricular sports things, those will probably stay. But you can make an argument that those should be looked at as well.
Yeah, I would love to make that argument. I wonder when I look at these types of fees, when the kids want to play an extracurricular activity or participate in marching band, how much families are having a hard time paying for that and the pressure that they feel. And also, what comes with that package? Is there a way to mitigate some of those costs?
There's a way. Yeah, it's a matter of budgeting for the districts. Right?
I almost want you to put on your former hat as the Utah Taxpayers Association. Talk about that for just a moment. Like, are there ways to look at this and say we got to get rid of some of this fat in the budget?
Absolutely. It's a sensitive topic, but it is absolutely where they should go, is to look at the overall budgeting and why these fees are being laden on. There can be an incentive for districts to lay a lot of fees on, because then that's something they don't have to come up with for in their budget. So there's probably somewhere in the middle where they can meet to reduce or eliminate these fees and just tighten up the budget.
Well, great perspective. Straight ahead, let's take live calls. 801-575-TALK. Give Rusty a shout out. What was that fee that you paid? The highest fee, Rusty.
The highest fee we paid in 2022, $3,568.
For
a couple sports and all the school.
Oh.
Yeah.
How much did you pay in school fees when you registered your child for classes this year? 801-575-TALK. Give us a call. Looking forward to chatting with you next.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Current events can have a lot of moving parts. Our job is to make it easy to keep up.
You're part of a bigger world, so spend 15 or 20 minutes here and be part of it.
Join us weekday mornings between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
If you have some extra weight that you're hanging on to, just hanging on to it for dear life, that's how it feels sometimes. You just can't get rid of it. Well, that was me. I had a bunch of weight that I've gained over the years, and I wanted to lose it, so I joined a program. I joined Salt Lake City Fat Loss. Part of the reason I chose Salt Lake City Fat Loss is because they said they could deliver incredible results, up to a pound of fat a day. And sure enough, I lost 57 pounds in just 60 days. I did it without injections. I did it without surgery. I didn't have any insane exercise routine that I had to follow, and there were no prepackaged meals to buy to keep my calories down. They taught me how to eat healthily and to keep it off. The results were so great, I was able to stay motivated. So if you're interested, go ahead and reach out to Salt Lake City Fat Loss by going to their website, slcfatloss.com. If you use my name, Dave, you're going to get an extra $200 off the program. Just go to slcfatloss.com.
The Cougars are back in the business of rivalry.
We have TCU and Baylor, but at the top is Utah and BYU.
The big time in the Big 12 just got bigger.
The Cougars win it! The Cougars win it! And here come the fans!
9 days to the season kickoff. BYU, Southern Illinois. Listen to Cougar Tracks for updates each day. 7:55 in the morning and 5:55 in the afternoon on Utah's legacy home of the Cougars. KSL News Radio.
Hey, this is Dan, the laptop man from PC Laptops. Let me tell you an amazing story. Last week, a customer came in. They were a creative director for an agency, and they were frustrated that their old, slow computer wasn't processing their files quick enough. He had a big project due and could not afford any delays. Well, we hooked him up with one of our new, powerful 2025 desktops for only $999, and he was able to complete his project with ease. Take one home today. The new 2025 S1 desktop or SM3 laptop for only $999. You heard that right, $999. You get a blazing fast processor, 16 gigs of RAM, and over a terabyte of blazing storage for $999. What else do you get? Lifetime service warranty, and we have 12 months special financing on approved credit. Hurry in right now because supplies are limited, because at PC Laptops, we love you. Just check us out at PCLaptops.com. $999, PCLaptops.com.
This is the day of the big sale at your gift shop.
Welcome in.
So this isn't just a big day for your business. It's a big day for the network keeping it all connected. That is, if it can handle the pressure.
Next in line, please.
So is it possible to get business internet you can really count on? It is. With 99.9% network reliability from Comcast Business. It's like this neat little bow.
Do you like that gift wrap?
Really ties it all together. Reliable internet for your business. It's not just possible. It's happening. Comcast Business. Powering possibilities.
Switch to Comcast Business and get started with reliable internet and advanced security for $49.99 a month for 12 months with a 2-year agreement. Plus, ask how to get up to a $500 prepaid card with a qualifying internet package. Don't wait. Call or go online to switch today. Offer ends 9/22/24. Restrictions apply. New customers only with 150 megabit per second internet. Eagle bill and auto pay required. Equipment, taxes, and fees extra. After 12 months, regular rates apply.
Chatting today with Debbie about her experience with 3-Day Kitchen and Bath. Now, Debbie, you had a huge project. How did it go?
My experience was wonderful. I worked with Taylor, and if he was my son, I'd be very proud.
That's quite the endorsement. What were the details of your project?
I had 2 bathrooms done, a new kitchen, and a pretty large flooring project.
And did they get it done in the time frame you were expecting?
Well, it took 2 weeks because it was a big job.
Did the quality of work meet your expectations?
Yes, it was excellent.
Would you recommend 3-Day Kitchen and Bath to someone that was deliberating on redoing their kitchen or bathroom?
I would, and I have already.
Sounds like you'd give them a 5-star rating.
I did.
There you have it. Another 3-Day Kitchen and Bath satisfied customer. Request your in-home consultation today at 877-229-8829 or online at 3daykitchen.com.
It's about time at 3-Day Kitchen and Bath.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Tim Hughes. First, the National Association of Realtors released new numbers this morning saying sales of previously occupied U.S. homes rose in July. That's the first time that number's gone up in 4 months. Second, Vice President Kamala Harris will close out the Democratic National Convention tonight when she accepts her party's historic presidential nomination. And third, police in St. George are looking for a man accused of assaulting a woman in her 70s while she was walking on the Virgin River Trail System in St. George. Going to top out at 90 this afternoon. Likely to be wet, however, later in the afternoon. Right now it is 81 downtown. Now back to David Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic. Back to school. Special coverage with Dave and Dujanovic.
Rusty Cannon, president of the Utah Credit Union Association, formerly president of the Utah Taxpayers Association, in today for Dave Noriega, and he knows all about money.
We try.
And you have added up the total cost that you and your wife have paid to send your kids back to school in fees over the last few years. What big number did you come up with?
Yeah, it's over $8,000 over the last 4 calendar years. So it adds up. That's about $2,000 a year for those doing the math at home. And it's just something you don't budget for. You don't think in the spring, hey, let's start saving over the summer for the fees that we're going to incur in the fall. It's just not something you plan on. And so it's always a bit of a surprise, even though we've done this for a long time. You just never quite get used to it. But it adds up. And as I mentioned, we had some kids in activities, sports, marching band, and it just skyrockets in some cases.
So districts charge fees, and there's fee schedules on their websites, and they need money to be able to run these programs, and in some cases maybe even fund some things that our kids need. Like I'm looking at in the Murray School District, their fee calendar, $25 if you want to rent a calculator. Well, some kids might need to rent a calculator.
Mm-hmm.
I was looking up the Park City School District. Of course, if your child wants a yearbook, they're going to have to pay, but it's $75.
Yeah.
And then up to $75. I guess this is a fee schedule. It's like an up to amount. Parking for high schoolers, up to $100.
I should probably disclose that some of those fees were parking fines from our kids parking in the wrong spot, but that was minimal. I won't admit to a lot of those, but that was part of it.
But a lot of this is for sports.
Yeah, I'd say the majority of our
Marching
fees have been sports, marching band, but a lot of them are, not a lot, but a good portion of them are general fees for general classes. And I think that's the point. We'll get into this later. The legislation is trying to limit or eliminate these general fees that, essentially you don't have a choice, and the kids are either, going to be needing to do these classes or want to do them in their core to their education. So why are we charging them a fee?
With back to school this week and last week, we know a lot of parents are feeling the pinch, and we are going to be asking Utah lawmakers throughout the show to join us to explain what is in the works to mitigate some of these fees. 801-575-TALK is the number to call. Hi, Annie.
Hi.
How much you paying fees?
I don't know yet this year. Our school district does not give you the fees until you've been in school for a month. So it's a bit of a surprise still.
Well,
But
how many kids? How many kids do you have enrolled?
I have 3 kids that will pay school fees this year.
Wow, so 3 kids, and your district still has not told you the schedule of fees or what they'll be?
No, they do not tell you until till you've been in school for 4 weeks.
And what are you looking at for fees?
Hundreds and hundreds of dollars. It's my comment is really about the inequity of the system of charging fees. We've been in a situation where some years we've had a fee waiver, and on the years that we have a fee waiver, my kids can do activities. But on the years that they don't, some of these classes, they're just too much, and we can't do it if they're not on fee waiver. So we have to kind of dance around and figure things out. And so it's a little hard because we don't know necessarily what the fees are going to be till we've been in class for a while. So that's just it. And I'm not objecting to activities being included in fee waivers, but when you hit that line, it's a hard line, and then you're into sometimes thousands of dollars.
Yeah, it can be a big burden. Well, thank you, Annie. That's good to know. And boy, that's an interesting district that's not disclosing the fees yet. You would hope they'd be a little bit more forthcoming.
Yeah, and a great point about if you don't qualify for the fee waiver one year, your kids, you might not be able to afford to put your kids in some of these.
Yeah, it's getting whipsawed around. That doesn't seem fair.
Hi, Tracy. You live in Sandy?
Hi, yes, I do live in Sandy. I have 5 kids. I have 2 high schoolers, a middle schooler, and 2 elementary school kids. And on the day of registration, I paid $1,600. However, I have a daughter on the drill team, so I think total fees for her is close to $3,000. And then last year, my son did marching band, so that was $900. So I easily give Canyon School District $4,000 to $5,000, last year, and I'll be somewhere close to that this year as well.
Oh, boy, I share your pain with the marching band and drill team. We know is quite expensive. That's interesting, Debbie. So $4,000 or $5,000, that is a significant amount of a budget for any family. And to not have, well, I guess you kind of know these are coming, but that's a lot of pain to incur, often unplanned. Maybe if your child makes a decision late, hey, you know what, I want to do this. And then you have to have a talk about, well, it is going to cost us $950 or whatever the case is. I remember in marching band, there were other kids in marching band with our son. They would have a summer job to save up for marching band, and they were dedicated. And that was great to see. But that was something they knew they had to do to gather those funds to pay for marching band. That $1,500 by the fall.
When my kids were in middle school and high school, I always felt like it was so important to have them involved in activities outside of math and science that we would cough up the fees. And my kids still make fun of me for putting them in chess. Paying to put them in chess, but hey, they know how to play chess. I'm like, I think you become smarter if you know how to play chess.
That is a good life skill, actually. Yes.
Jacob from Eagle Mountain. Good morning. How much did you pay in fees?
Good morning, guys. So luckily, I don't have any kids yet in high school. Not looking forward to that day. But I remember not too long ago when I myself was in high school, and marching band in particular was the activity that I had chosen to do. And I remember every year that it was a burden on my family, and it did range depending on the events of that year and the trips that were taken. It would range somewhere between $800 up to, close to $3,000. And that makes sense to me. And my unpopular opinion, I think, for a lot of folks is that, yeah, those fees, I think, should probably remain in place. I think the only fees that, as a taxpayer, everyone should be paying as part of the property taxes, and I think Rusty was getting to this point. The only ones that the only things that those dollars should apply towards are those classes that the state has actually mandated as part of an effective and wholesome education required to graduate. And then anything on top of that, I mean, that's just essentially just extra. It's extra stuff that enhances your experience, but unfortunately, we got to be frugal with the tax dollars. Not everyone gets the benefit.
Yeah, thanks, Jacob.
Yeah, thanks, Jacob. He brings up a good point. So just to remind everybody, about 60% of all your property taxes go to your school district. The other 40 go to between the city, county, and your special water districts. And then all income tax also funds education. So there's a lot of taxpayer money going into these schools, and we talked about this earlier, Debbie, where you could have a conversation, and we should have a conversation about budgeting within the districts, and is it properly aligned? Where there are areas where you can trim to reduce the fees or eliminate the fees. Now, this legislation that we're going to talk about is going to force them to eliminate fees in certain cases, and they will just need to be forced into better budgeting. But it's a conversation. And also, we made a point about if our kids are making a choice to play sports, do we really want to necessarily deter that, right? Meaning if it's a good thing for our children, and one of your children wants to play a sport or do an activity that would really enhance their life and make them, have more joy at the high school experience, why would we want to deter that? And if those high fees are a deterrence, I think it's fair to say there maybe should be some way for them to have those reduced or waived or some help, because $1,500 to $3,000, that is hard for anybody to come up with.
Yeah, if your child participates in drill, if they participate in marching band, if they participate in football, if they participate in baseball, culinary classes costing more. Who does who among us doesn't want to send our child to college knowing how to make more than ramen in a microwave? These are really, some of these are great life skills. Playing on a team, exercising, getting outside, and participating in things that fascinate them beyond, like math, science, and English. We got to figure out a way to find a solution that parents are not feeling this kind of financial drain, or children are being denied an opportunity to participate in these types of activities because their parents don't make the cutoff for a fee waiver.
Yeah.
We'll continue the conversation later in the show, trying to get somebody from Capitol Hill here to Utah lawmakers who have been involved in this conversation to give us some insight on what is being worked on to mitigate at least some of these fees.
9:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Tim Hughes. Let's look at some of our top stories this hour. A man is dead after he was shot by police officers in Layton last night. Layton Police Lieutenant Travis Lyman says they got a call from a woman saying her husband was having a mental health crisis and had a gun. He says they had her leave the house and had their crisis negotiators talk to him multiple times.
During those conversations that they had with him, he indicated that he made statements that indicated he was intending on forcing a confrontation with officers.
Lyman says the man eventually came outside with a pistol and a shotgun, and that's when police shot him. He was taken to the hospital but has since succumbed to his injuries. The Central Utah Correctional Facility is cleaning up a huge mess after a water main break in Gunnison. It flooded the administration building, but water to the housing units has been restored. There's now water in the bathrooms. Repair crews are working to get it back up ASAP. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Vice President Kamala Harris will close out the Democratic National Convention tonight. She will make history by becoming the first black woman to formally accept a major party nomination to be president of the United States. Your money at this moment, markets are down. This is crazy. It's on the heels of, home sales actually going up for the first time in 4 months. And wow, markets reacted negatively. We're off 154. That's 0.4% on the Dow. We're down 19 on the S&P, also in the red by 100 this hour on the NASDAQ. The return of monsoonal moisture. Southern Utah's already received it this morning. It's coming our way. We'll check your forecast next. KSL News Time, 9:32.
You know what's great about KSL's traffic coverage? Trained traffic reporters and real listeners.
Trading information and making the commute safer and faster for everyone.
Every 10 minutes on the nines, we have you covered on KSL News Radio.
Everyone knows Labor Day's the best time to buy a Bullfrog spa. Start fall off with a new hot tub or swim spa for relaxation, therapy, and family fun. Bullfrog Spa's patented jetpack therapy system makes it great with personalized jetpack massage options. Now through Labor Day, get up to $5,000 off MSRP, a free water care system upgrade, and special financing. Save even more on limited scratch and dent models from our factory. Don't miss Labor Day savings at your nearby Bullfrog Spa's factory store today.
Bullfrog Spas. Peaceful body, peaceful mind, peaceful home.
Nearly 70% of Utah's land is controlled by the federal government, severely limiting Utah's ability to actively manage and protect our natural resources. Our families, businesses, and communities know there's a better way. Utahns have been good stewards of our public lands for generations. That's why we're asking each and every Utahn to get informed, speak up, and learn more at standforourland.utah.gov.
Dan owed an unbelievable amount of money to the IRS.
I got behind on my taxes. It's a horrible feeling.
He was in denial.
And when I got those letters from the IRS, you wanted to act like they didn't exist.
Finally, Dan turned to Optima Tax Relief, the leading tax resolution firm. A-plus rated by the Better Business Bureau, they've resolved over $1 billion for their clients.
Optima got me a settlement with the IRS. These people are really people-friendly. It was every bit of a new lease on life for me.
The fast action and the great results made Dan's head spin.
I felt like I was in a dream, but it's real, and I have paperwork to prove it. They got the job done, and life is good.
For tax help you can trust, call Optima now for a free consultation.
If you're worried about what's going to happen with the IRS, stop worrying. Make the call now.
Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. Optima Tax Relief. Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
IVC is celebrating 20 years providing quality service in Utah. You've probably heard their saying by now. Life starts when the pain stops. IVC is the most trusted interventional and vein center in the state. And they've been voted Best of Utah Valley 10 years running. The 7 physicians at IVC provide state-of-the-art, comprehensive vein care with many years of experience. The team at IVC takes the time to get to know you and your veins so you're comfortable with the right diagnosis and the right treatment. Patients are like family at IVC. You've also heard many radio ads over the years with real people describing how IVC has dramatically improved their quality of life by eliminating the pain and discomfort caused by varicose veins. Well, what are you waiting for? Don't let vein disease slow you down even one more day, because life starts when the pain stops. Visit ivein.com today to set up a free screening. That's ivein.com.
Time to take a look at traffic and weather together here. Brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents a gallon. Heather?
The Utah County drivers are having a rough go of it right now. Southbound I-15, we had a crash at Pioneer Crossing and American Fork. It was blocking the HOV lane and left shoulder until about 2.5 minutes ago. And they just pulled all of that away, but traffic is still backed up all the way to 2100 North in Lehigh. And then as you continue southbound, we have a box truck that rolled off the right side of the freeway over the barrier. You have a bunch of emergency crews on scene. 2 right lanes are blocked as you approach Center Street exit in Orem, and that has traffic backed up into Linden. And the traffic lights at the intersection of 2100 North, 3600 West, and Lehigh were flashing red until about 30 seconds ago, and they just got those lights fixed. Choose a gorgeous new countertop for your kitchen or bath at the Bedrock Quartz Stone Sale with selected choices at 50% off in August. Visit one of 7 showrooms today or bedrockquartz.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
We're looking at some storms today and the potential for flash flooding in southern Utah. Highs are going to reach lower 90s, and we're not far from it right now. It's 81 degrees at the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. I'm Tim Hughes. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio. The Democratic National Convention. Special coverage with Dave and Dujanovic.
But there's been times when I've watched the DNC that I felt like I was at a rock concert.
Yes, it's had some qualities of that.
Rusty Cannon, formerly of the Utah Taxpayers Association, currently of the Utah Credit Unions Association, also host of KSL at Night. It's a mouthful.
It's a lot.
You wear a lot of hats. So glad you're in today for
Thank
Dave
you.
Noriega. Watched a couple of the speeches last night at the DNC. Really felt like Vice President, the nominee for the Democrats, Tim Walz, delivered exactly what he should have delivered, and he did so succinctly. Spoiler alert, I think that's one of the shortest speeches of one of the leading politicians that I've seen in a long time. It was about 15 minutes, Rusty.
Yeah, and I would say that is a plus, a huge plus. I personally get so irritated how so many politicians forget the basics of being brief. Like the 3 B's in politics that I was taught is be brief, be brilliant, be gone. Right. and so I think that's a great way to remember. And so many of them forget to be brief. You think of Donald Trump, I'd say many of I love speeches, right? I love speech writing. I love seeing how people give them. If he would cut off after like 15% of what he says, he would be much better off. It's the other 85% where you just trail on and on and on, and you start to lose people. And if he really only spoke, you said it was about 15 minutes?
It's about 15
minutes.
minutes.
That's about the attention span of most people, right? And so you want to, in a speech, and if that's what he did, brilliant.
I thought he also handled this issue very, very well. 2 things. First of all, he made himself out to be, quite frankly, the everyman.
So there I was, a 40-something high school teacher with little kids, 0 political experience, and no money, running in a deep red district. But you know what? Never underestimate a public school teacher. Never.
I think that's where he has to he has to ride that everyman wave. He has to be relatable to, and he talked about earlier in his speech that his father died when he was young. I believe it was from cancer, and that as a result of his illnesses, the family was left with a pile of medical debt. And immediately it's like, people can relate to that. So many people can relate to that situation.
Yeah, and you noticed how he delivered the punchline, and then there was applause, and it was smooth. So many also mistime those applause lines, and they're trying to get something else out, and everybody starts applauding, and then they have to hurry and put the rest of the line in, or it interrupts their speech, and they make a pause that they just didn't plan on. But he was rolling through it pretty good, and that's something to be noted. He knew what he was doing, and he was doing it well.
He came onto the stage not too long ago. We were kind of expecting Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro to be Kamala Harris's choice as a running mate. Then she said, "No, I'm going to go to Minnesota, and I'm going to ask Governor Tim Walz to be my running mate." So a lot of folks don't know who he is.
Yeah, that was my first question, and I'd like to think I'm tuned into this. My first question was who? When his name first came up, I didn't know. I think if they lose, you can look back and say one of the days that they lost was when she picked him as vice presidential candidate. Because Minnesota does not help him. They will win Minnesota no matter what. He is just as progressive, if not more progressive than her. Versus Josh Shapiro would have pushed everything the other way. You got to win Pennsylvania. He would have helped with Pennsylvania. He's more moderate than her. He would have helped in so many different ways. And there's a lot of theories as to why she didn't pick him. Who knows? Someday they'll write a book about it. But I think it was a strategic blunder to pick him just from a strategy perspective. Nothing against him and what he stands for and all of that. But I'm saying politically, from a state that you don't need to win, or that you're going to win anyway.
You're going to win it.
And and then his policy stances, he did not pull that ticket anywhere to the middle. He pulled it to the left. It's just my opinion.
And Pennsylvania would have helped her.
Oh, absolutely. You've got to win Pennsylvania. Well, it's one of those states you really need to win. Yeah.
Well, he did talk about his record. He did serve 12 years in Congress. You heard he was a school teacher. And then he spoke of his record as governor. I thought this was another important hit for him. He needed to hit this one out of the park. And what I mean by that is, whether you agree with his policy or not, if you don't know anything about his policy, he's got to hit on that, and he did.
Then I came back to serve as governor, and we got right to work, making a difference in our neighbors' lives. We cut taxes for the middle class. We passed paid family and medical leave. We invested in fighting crime and affordable housing. We cut the cost of prescription drugs and helped people escape the kind of medical debt that nearly sank my family. And we made sure that every kid in our state gets breakfast and lunch every day. So while other states were banning books from their schools, we were banishing hunger from ours.
So it's interesting. You started talking about policy, and this is what I'm hoping that the conversation moves to, is policy, and let's talk about personalities. Let's say, because from a Taxpayers Association perspective, we get into the details, and I'm a total nerd on this. But you talk about passing. I think it was family leave. They talked about what's unsaid so far is that the way to pay for that, they hiked the payroll tax on everybody. Right? That cost money. That was part of a tax hike. But that's the part you leave out. Of course, you leave it out in the speech.
The devil's in the details.
Yeah, the devil's in the details. But, and I don't mean to be the wet blanket, but that's the kind of stuff that I am hoping starts to be discussed.
Yeah.
Policy, not just all personality.
I agree with you. That's why I thought that was an important part of his speech. He's not going to be the one to go into all of those details in a 15-minute speech,
no,
nor
that's not
is
the
he going to
place.
get up there and say, thank you so much for the nomination. Appreciate the nod. And by the way, payroll taxes are going to go up.
Yeah,
I'm going to charge you more for property. So that's going to be for others to now start to run with.
Correct.
And get more of those details out, and for us to do our own research as well.
Yeah.
One of the finest moments of any political convention that I've ever subjected myself to was the moment that he walked out on stage and his 17-year-old son, Gus, stands up and then from then on starts cheering from the audience, from the crowd.
Yeah, you showed me that this morning, and I teared up. That was a pretty powerful moment.
I was crying when I watched that. You know, his son, for those of you who don't know, he has ADHD. He's nonverbal. He has a condition that he deals with. He's nonverbal. He also has anxiety. The Waltzes have been rather public about what their son has gone through, but he's standing up there and shouting like, "That's my dad! That's my dad!" I mean, it just was such a wonderful moment.
It was genuine.
It was.
It was absolutely genuine. Like you can't. That's stuff that just happens or it doesn't, and that was pretty amazing. It's good that they caught it on camera. And like I said, that was the first time I saw it when you showed it to me, and it was pretty amazing.
You know, we have delegates from Utah that headed back to Chicago for the Democratic National Convention. I'm wondering if they caught that moment as well, and what the feeling was like in the arena, and also what their take is on not only Tim Walz's speech, but a very important moment tonight for their presidential nominee, Kamala Harris.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Here's a trick to podcasting at work and getting all the Utah news you love.
Download the KSL News Radio app.
The podcast for Utah's morning news and Dave and Debbie are right there. Dozens of podcasts a day.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
Well, I've reached another milestone on my journey with soda weight loss. It's 6 months since I hit my goal and let go of 70 pounds of fat weight. And in those 6 months, I've managed to keep it off and still enjoy all the benefits of my journey, including a new wardrobe, a new sense of self-confidence, and most important of all, a set of new habits that are healthy and that will last me for the rest of my life. This is what makes soda so amazing. Of course, it's spelled S-O-T-A. I've now been enjoying the benefits of soda weight loss longer than it took me to let go of the fat in the first place. So think about, where do you want to be in 4 to 5 months? Start the program now and you could be down 50, 60, even 70 pounds by the holidays. Imagine showing your family and friends the new transformed you at Christmas. Check them out for yourself. Go to sotaweightloss.com. That's sotaweightloss.com and see for yourself why soda is #1 for client results and client satisfaction. SOTA stands for, say it with me, state of the art.
At KSL News Radio, we have a 30-year legacy of honoring Utah teachers, but we can't do it without your help. Please tell us about an important teacher in your life on the KSL Teacher Tribute Wall, presented by Cypress Credit Union. Each month, one lucky teacher wins a $500 gift card from Cypress Credit Union, a $250 gift card to Harmon's, plus season tickets to Hale Center Theater. Say thanks to your teacher today at kslnewsradio.com/teacher from Cypress Credit Union and KSL News Radio.
Need a ride? Call Utah Transit Authority's referral line. This dedicated phone number is a resource created specifically for individuals with disabilities, aging adults over the age of 60, and veterans who need temporary assistance finding specialized transportation solutions. Simply give us a call at 801-287-2870. Leave your name and phone number, and a UTA representative will get back to you soon. If you're facing ongoing day-to-day transportation challenges, the UTA referral line is here to help. From medical appointments to the grocery store, we're here to get you where you need to go. Please call 801-287-2870. This dedicated phone number is a resource created specifically for individuals with disabilities, aging adults over the age of 60, and veterans who need temporary assistance finding specialized transportation solutions. 801-287-2870. That's 801-287-2870.
Jim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors. I want to tell you about our famous "You Don't Need a Warranty" warranty. That's right, it's a warranty you don't need, but we give it to you anyway. Let me explain. Most warranty problems for siding, gutters, and windows are caused by not installing stuff right in the first place. If you rush the work, cut corners, or use subpar materials, you're just begging for problems later. At RGS Exteriors, we don't tolerate careless workmanship. We slow down, focus on every detail, and use only the best materials. We prevent warranty work by doing the job right in the first place. That's why the 10-year everything guarantee we give you is also known as our "You Don't Need a Warranty" warranty. We absolutely will be there if you need to use it. But honestly, you probably will never have to. Done right the first time. That's the RGS way. For siding, gutters, and windows, call 801-280-3110 or visit us at rgsexteriors.com.
Master Electrical Services, home of the upfront pricing guarantee.
Tim and Amanda.
Do I look forward to reporting the news? Yes, insofar as it helps me understand what's happening.
We know that it's important information that's going to impact people's lives, and so that makes the job of reporting the news that day easier.
Utah's Morning News between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Hey, we know the news is coming at you all day long and so fast. So KSL Television and KSL News Radio have teamed up to bring you the 3 Things You Need to Know newsletter. It is super easy to get. It's super easy to subscribe to. And then we send it right to your email. It's the 3 Things You Need to Know newsletter. I get it every day, and so can you. Text the word inbox to 57500. Again, we'll sign you up if you just text the word inbox to 57500.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Tim Hughes. First, the Professional Pickleball Association, affectionately known as the PPA, is hosting a tournament for amateurs and professionals at the Salt Palace. Utah, it turns out, has the highest number of pickleball players per capita. Second, a man is dead following an officer-involved shooting in Layton last night. Police say they were called to the scene of a man having a mental health crisis when a gunshot was heard and police fired at the man. Third, Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky is visiting the northeastern Ukrainian border area where his forces launched their surprise offensive into Russia more than 2 weeks ago. We've got rain coming this afternoon, a high expected at 90, and right now in Salt Lake City it's 81 degrees. As we get you back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic. Dave and Dujanovic. The Democratic National Convention. Special coverage with Dave and Dujanovic.
Once again, we're going to take you live to Chicago where the DNC is well underway. And in fact, tonight is really the big night for Kamala Harris, the nominee of Democrats for president. Rusty Cannon in today for Dave Noriega. Rusty often hosts or co-hosts KSL at Night.
Yes.
What's your take been so far on the Democratic National Convention?
Well, so these conventions, whether it's the RNC or the DNC, I take them with a grain of salt because it is a show. I mean, if you think long ago, 100 years plus a time ago, that was where things really happened. They had to do procedural votes. They had to, you had reporters taking notes and then distributing news from there. That's pretty much automatic now, and most of this tends to be a bit of a show. And it's not all negative. I'm just saying there's a lot of that in it, and you've seen that in this one at the DNC. It's been a lot more peppy or lively than the RNC, I would say, with the musical introductions. I don't know if that was last night or the night before. When you have that and quite a lot of excitement, and then it's a lot of speech giving, and as we talked about on the previous segment, and I'm a nerd with this stuff, but good speeches go a long way. And throughout the day, there's a ton of speeches that don't get covered, and then some that pop up. And then as you get into prime time, that's where you really see a lot of the substance. And obviously tonight, it's Kamala Harris's big night.
To your point about it being a show, I really felt that way when I saw this.
Let us choose truth. Let us choose honor. And let us choose joy.
That was Oprah Winfrey, who took the stage last night at the DNC. Also on stage, of course, giving his 15-minute speech, and really his introductory speech to the delegates and to the nation, Vice Presidential nominee Tim Walz. And Shannon Rhodes, who's the chair of the Cache County Democratic Party here in Utah, you were there when this was happening.
Yes, it was exciting.
So what was it like being in the arena? We see a different reaction on TV, obviously, versus being in the arena. What was the reaction for Walz's speech last night?
Oh, so much excitement. People cannot wait to... he's been present throughout the entire week. We're lucky the Utah delegation happens to be right below the VIP booth where all the VIPs sit. And so we've been able to watch them all throughout the week, and it's just there's so much excitement in our party right now. Everyone's like Oprah said, it's full of joy. And last night to watch him and watch his children in tears, and to watch him with his family at the very end, nobody wanted to leave. We just wanted to take in that moment and be a part of that moment because it was beautiful.
So you guys were actually right in front of the family. We were talking about that, about the reaction that his son had. That was right in front of where you were sitting?
Yeah, Utah. I don't know how Utah got so lucky, us being a red state, but we got the best seats in the house, that's for sure. It was amazing. Yeah, we were right there. And, before he even came out, his former students came out all on the stage, his former football team, and the family was in tears then, and it just kind of continued throughout. It was tears of joy for the family and for so many people, even our delegation. We were all in tears.
Did you see his 17-year-old son Gus stand up and start cheering and crying when his dad took the podium?
Yes.
You did?
Yeah, that was one of the best moments I've ever seen. Where, I mean, they're like you were saying, there's reports about him having some challenges and essentially being nonverbal. But you know what? It was very clear to all of us when he said, "That's my dad. That's my dad." It was a beautiful moment.
What rolled up to his speech? What was before his last night? Were there many other speakers, or is it mostly him last night?
Oh, it was packed full last night. There was speaker after speaker after speaker. Just an amazing lineup, honestly. All 3 days it's been, there was some issues with transportation the first day, and we arrived a little bit later than we would have liked to, but we've all made sure we're not late for it, because if you blink, you're missing something, because it's just been one thing after another. It was a great night.
It does seem like, from watching from back home here, Shannon, it does seem like it's been one kind of big party. Shannon Rhodes
is sleep deprived.
Yep, Shannon Rhodes is the chair of the Cache County Democratic Party, and the idea that we're speaking to the chair of the Cache County Democratic Party. I don't want that to get lost on our listeners. I mean, you're up here north of Salt Lake, but about an hour and a half outside. And do you have a strong contingent of Democrats in Cache County?
We're growing. Yeah, we do. There's been ever since the announcement of Kamala and Tim Walz as the team, we've seen in Cache County excitement. People are signing up to get our emails. We're getting more donations. There's just a lot of excitement. We were bombarded with people requesting Harris Wall signs up in Cache Valley, and that doesn't happen very often. So it's an exciting time.
So who else is with the Utah delegation out there? Others like yourself, party chairs, or who's out there with you?
Yeah, we've got party chairs. We've got candidates. There's 34 delegates, and then we've got all of our staff as well. So I think overall there's about 40 of us. There are 2 of us from Cache Valley that are up here, and one of them is actually a student at Utah State University. He's only 20 years old, and he has just been blown away by the experience that he's having, and it's been a beautiful thing to witness and see.
Yeah. Shannon, before we let you go, we got about 30 seconds left. Kind of preview what you're expecting tonight from Kamala Harris.
Oh, it's going to be an amazing time. I just actually dipped out of the women's caucus to talk to you guys, but being in a room full of women who are thinking of the idea of voting for a woman to be the president is really exciting. And I expect tonight to even be more joyful and more ruckus and more of a party atmosphere than it was every night this week. So it's going to be exciting.
Well, thank you for sharing all you've shared. This sounds like an exciting week back there, and we hope everybody gets home safe. I don't know if you remember, Debbie, when they came home from the RNC is when the Delta problems were. It took some people 5 days to get home. So hopefully they all get home easily without any snafus on travel.
Yeah, thanks so much, Shannon Rhodes, chair of the Cache County Democratic Party. Of course, we will be covering Kamala Harris's speech today, and we'll bring our insights, of course, for the final day of the Democratic National Convention to you tomorrow. But also in the 11 o'clock hour, Boyd Matheson, who has been popping the popcorn and sitting down on the sofa every night and watching this wall to wall, will bring us his insights and analysis at 11:05, as he always does. Straight ahead, there was a fake Joe Biden robocall that told some voters not to vote in the primary. We're going to talk to our legal analyst, Greg Skordas, about the legal implications of this phony call next.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour. People are now going to see a question on their November ballots in Utah asking if they want to change the state constitution and allow lawmakers to change or throw out voter-led ballot initiatives. Lawmakers who supported adding that amendment to the ballot argued that not being able to change initiatives that could easily become law could have unintended consequences, but that support was not universal.
I think this is unlikely to pass in November, but it is likely to give us the biggest black eye we've ever had as a legislature.
Senator Daniel Thatcher was one of 9 Republicans who voted against it. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Unemployment claims across the United States rose by 4,000 to 232,000 for last week. The week ending August 10th, 1.86 million Americans were collecting unemployment benefits. Those rising numbers adding to evidence that higher interest rates are taking a toll on the U.S. job market. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average down now on the day, 169 points since the open. The NASDAQ is down 179. And our KSL weather. The chance of storms is coming back in this afternoon. That's next. KSL News Time, 10:01.
We hope you have the right app on your phone for news. You probably have dozens.
But the KSL News Radio app, well, it makes our live stream super easy.
Plus, our talk shows are right there as podcast for your workday.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
This Friday, join KSL News Radio and NPS from 10 to 1 as the movie show stops by. Then, browse and uncover what makes NPS so great. With 4 locations, NPS takes a new inventory every day. Then, they check all competitors' retail pricing before marking items down 20 to 70% off. You're invited to visit the movie show this Friday from 10 to 1. And that's the first step to discovering NPS. Visit npsstore.com to begin your own NPS adventure. npsstore.com.
Hey, this is Dan, the laptop man from PCLaptops.com. I've been advertising with KSL Radio for decades now, and radio works. With all the clutter on social media, radio cuts through all the noise and gets directly into your customer's brain. If you're a small business and want to reach the local audience here in Salt Lake City, KSL Radio is the way to go.
If you'd like to know more about the benefits of advertising with KSL News Radio, email Stephanie Palmer at spalmer@ksl.com.
You wouldn't know it, but most financial advisors are put in a box. I'm Jeff Jr. from Trajan Wealth, and I want to provide you a little insight about financial advisors. Most financial advisors have to sell what their company requires them to sell, and many advisors have to only adhere to what's called a suitability standard. A suitability standard is a limited standard of care, not requiring what's sold to be best, just suitable. Advisors with this loose standard often have limited investment and product selection. Trajan Wealth is held to a fiduciary standard, which is the highest standard of care in the advisory business. And that's just one of the many reasons we have billions of dollars under our care and attract clients from other advisors. Raise your standards today and call Trajan Wealth. Call 801-899-7600. That's 801-899-7600.
Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor.
Looking for a beautiful and functional upgrade to your home? 3 Day Blinds has you covered. At 3 Day Blinds, our free in-home design consultation makes it easy. A 3 Day Blinds design expert will help you find the window treatment solution that works best for your home's needs and style. We bring the showroom to you with loads of samples giving you an idea of how different fabrics look in your home. Your designer also provides expert measurements and helps coordinate installation. Book your free in-home consultation by visiting 3dayblinds.com. Take control of your window treatments with Motorized by 3-Day Blinds. Whether you're at home or on vacation, you can operate your window treatments with the touch of a button using the 3-Day Blinds app. 3-Day Blinds has specialized in window treatments for more than 40 years, and it's the name people trust. At 3-Day Blinds, we have stylish and functional window treatments for any occasion. For your free custom same-day quote, schedule your free in-home design consultation now at 3dayblinds.com. That's 3dayblinds.com.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Heather Kelly.
We still have a bit of slowing southbound I-15 as you leave Linden and head toward the Center Street exit in Orem. That was due to an earlier crash that had a couple of right lanes blocked. Now, most of the emergency crews have pulled away, but it's taking time for traffic to get up to normal speeds. No problems, though, the rest of your commute along the Wasatch Front. That includes Weber and Davis counties and at Tooele County on SR 36 and I-80. Receive 0% for 5 years on the 2024 Tucson or Elantra. When you walk through the doors, you feel like family at Murdoch Hyundai in Logan, Linden, Murray, or online at murdochhyundai.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
There's a good chance of thunder showers and potential flash flooding today and tomorrow, and we'll dry out and cool off Saturday and Sunday. And right now, we're at 82 degrees and sunny. I'm Dan Bomas at KSL News Radio. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
The story that we're going to talk about now really focuses on artificial intelligence and how artificial intelligence might manipulate voters. And in a moment, Rusty Cannon, who's co-hosting with me today, and for Dave Noriega and I are going to play you this phony robocall that went out to voters in one state, and it sounds a lot like President Joe Biden's voice. It's about 30 seconds long, and the allegations are that this was an attempt to suppress voters from going to the polls.
Yeah, apparently it was done by a rival campaign. There's now some fines being levied on this. This is a big deal, Debbie. I mean, if these kinds of tactics proliferate, we got a big problem. So it's good that everyone's getting in front of this and talking about it now. But this could be employed in so many bad ways in campaigns that it's something that you need to think about. I mean, when you hear this call, it's an eye opener.
Yeah, I'm going to play the call in just a moment. But when I first heard it, I thought, well, I could probably tell that that's not really President Biden. But then I thought, you know what? When you're on a cell phone, sometimes
it might be bad reception. You
yeah.
might a little wind behind you. You can't hear very well, or there's.
And my reaction to it might be different than somebody else's reaction to it. Who's
if I get a robocall, I hang up.
Yeah.
It drives me nuts. But
let's listen.
Know the value of voting Democratic when our votes count. It's important that you save your vote for the November election. We'll need your help in electing Democrats up and down the ticket. Voting this Tuesday only enables the Republicans in their quest to elect Donald Trump again. Your vote makes a difference in November, not this Tuesday. If you would like to be removed from future calls, please press 2 now.
So when I listen to that sounds like him.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's pretty. Now you can tell it's cut and pasted together, but that is a pretty good rendering of his voice. And obviously, listening to it, we realize it's fake. But in the heat of the moment, or worded differently, that's not okay. That is quite missing. Now, in this case, it was back in January. I think it was for the New Hampshire primary.
Yeah.
They're trying to show him saying, "Hey, don't go vote. Save it for November," which is ridiculous.
Yeah. But if you get that call, you might think, oh, now I'm off the hook. I don't have to worry about it. Or, the president's calling me.
Yeah.
This brings up so many issues regarding artificial intelligence and how it could be used to dissuade people from going to the polls or convincing people of issues. When you make it sound like somebody's voice that like if I got a call from President Trump, I'd know his voice if I get a call from President Biden, I'd know his voice. KSL legal analyst Greg Skordas, let's talk to you about this. The companies, they've been caught. There's some fines. There may be some criminal penalties here. But according to MSN, I mean, this was allegedly orchestrated by a political consultant, and now he's in trouble as well. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, I can't agree with Rusty more. This is not okay. that was the two words he used. Not okay from the Federal Election Commission standpoint, and there will be significant fines. There's already been $1 million fine imposed, and it's not okay with the Justice Department. This could very well, as you're talking about, end up with criminal charges. When you're talking about elections, especially national elections, but even locally, any fraud, any deception, any misrepresentation is significant, especially today with all the things that we're dealing with election issues, people concerned about elections. I mean, you just can't cross that bridge. And yes, that was clearly made to sound like President Biden was asking people to do things. That's not okay, as Rusty said again, and should result in not only fines but potential criminal prosecution.
I'll patent that I said not okay. So question I have is legally, you mentioned fines and criminal. Would that be an additional penalty in a case like this where someone could get fined and then you also have criminal consequences?
Yes, there's an administrative remedy here, which would be by the Election Commission, and that's already been imposed in one respect, and it could be imposed more. But then again, the Justice Department could come in criminally and bring misrepresentation charges, election interference charges, that type of thing. So the civil end, the administrative end, Rusty, is probably a fairly straightforward slam dunk $1 million punishment. The criminal end may be a little more difficult because who do you prosecute and what's the exact nature of the crime? But I do think that the Justice Department is going to look at this pretty closely, and there may very well be a criminal charge brought at the end of the day. But the administrative part of it, the Election Commission part, yeah, they're going to have some significant penalties.
If you're just joining us, we're talking to KSL legal analyst Greg Skordas, Rusty Cannon of KSL at Night, also president of the Utah Credit Union Association, joining me as my co-host today and for Dave Noriega. And guys, I want to just replay this phony phone call that went out to voters in New Hampshire. It was earlier this year, and there's allegations that this was an attempt at voter suppression. The voice sounds a lot like President Joe Biden. It is artificial intelligence, but could easily see why people would be fooled by this.
Know the value of voting Democratic when our votes count. It's important that you save your vote for the November election. We'll need your help in electing Democrats up and down the ticket. Voting this Tuesday only enables the Republicans in their quest to elect Donald Trump again. Your vote makes a difference in November, not this Tuesday.
So it makes it, I mean, if you didn't want to really vote and you thought it was a big effort to vote, or you were confused about voting, you may think that's a call from the president of the United States, and I just won't vote in the primary. Greg, I think this opens up a whole can of worms of how AI plays out between now and November, and if authorities are actually able to keep up with these phony phone calls or phony, social media posts. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, and we saw a phony social media post of Taylor Swift that allegedly showed her, and actually I saw a picture of it. Swift or Taylor wants you to vote for Trump or something like that. It wasn't her. It was an AI image. And this one with Biden specifically, not only is it not him, but he's telling people not to vote. I mean, you can't do that. I mean, that's not good. Don't vote this Tuesday. That's when it clearly crosses the line, because no one would say that. It's just not the thing you do, no matter who you are, no matter what your position is. I mean, you don't do that. That one clearly crosses the line. But to go back to your question about AI, you can bet that this is the tip of the iceberg. We're going to see more and more and more in the next 75 or whatever days we have before the election of this. And hopefully the people are savvy, that the candidates and the Federal Election Commission are on top of it, and we can keep a handle on it. And maybe fines like what are happening here, potential criminal penalties what are happening here, will get people to think, hey, wait a minute, maybe I don't want to jump into this fray.
So, Greg, is there legal, I guess I don't know what the right word to use here, but is the legal system prepared to use AI as evidence, meaning that there's no wiggle room to get out of it if someone used AI to do something wrong like this, that can be used as evidence against someone? I assume the legal system is prepared for this.
Yes, I would say so, especially where there's an intent or even a reckless disregard for the truth and intent to defraud, in this case, the electorate. Yeah, I think that those are laws that have been in place before. They'll be used again, and AI is just one other way that people are trying to cross that bridge and get into the criminal aspect of misrepresentation and fraud.
Greg Skordas, KSL legal analyst. Thanks so much. Always great to get your perspective on these emerging issues like AI in politics. And I think that phone call probably would have fooled some people.
Yeah, and then you also can get into other things that could happen if they impersonate. Let's say they impersonate one of our voices saying something. Let's say you're running and they put your voice out there saying something really terrible, and it comes out 2 days before the election, right? I mean, this could get really, really bad.
Yeah. Oh, and affects the outcome of the election itself.
Absolutely.
Just waiting voters from showing up, but actually
it could get a lot worse.
Painting a candidate as though they said something that they never said. Great insight, great conversation, and great warning, too. Just be on the lookout. I mean, there's a lot of things coming at us all day long, and when it comes to political ads and, campaigning, it is ramping up. So be on the lookout. Straight ahead, this headline on NBCnews.com caught my attention. I stopped cold, and I was like, I got to read this. It says, before students can get a Band-Aid or headache medicine from school nurses and staff in Boise, they need parental consent. Let's discuss next.
Dave and Dujanovic.
A lot of us are filling our workdays with podcasts.
When you're working, go to KSLNewsRadio.com.
Click on Dave and Debbie's podcast and pick a topic and story length.
Podcast with Dave and Debbie. Then get to work with KSL News Radio.
The Democratic Convention rolls toward the nomination.
I'll see you when we're making a real joyful noise when the votes are counted. God bless you, and God bless America.
Get updates all this week. Listen in the morning with Tim and Amanda, and to Jeff Kaplan in the afternoon as you drive home. The Democratic National Convention, all week on KSL News Radio.
Don't you love this time of year? Fabulous fall colors amongst the Red Rock Views and Cedar Breaks and Dixie National Forest. You should take a drive where you will no doubt enjoy 4 scenic highways, connecting you to the most amazing fall colors you'll ever see. Time to put the U back in Utah, because it's all about the journey you create. This fall, see you in Cedar City. Start your journey at this year's Utah Shakespeare Festival, now through the fall, featuring 4 incredible plays. Do you like nature? Take a hike, go mountain biking, or OHVing in Bryan Head. You'll enjoy many fun fall events, like the charm of an organic farmer's market. And be sure you include a visit to the best pumpkin patches in the West. You will definitely get it all this fall in Cedar City, putting the U back in Utah and Cedar City. To plan your journey and for Cedar City's updated fall color report, activities, and cool foodie places to go, visit cedarcity.com. cedarcity.com.
This is the story of the one. As a warehouse manager, her job is to transform chaos into clarity and to see patterns where others see problems. Luckily, she's got a partner who shares her perspective. Grainger offers over 1 million industrial-grade products, backed by real person support and in-depth online resources, so she can tackle every task with precision and turn potential setbacks into streamlined success. Call clickgrainger.com or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
This is the story of the one. As a facility technician installing a new welding station, he knows getting the ventilation right is critical for safety. That's why when questions arise, there's Grainger. Grainger offers detailed technical product information online at his fingertips, so it's easy to find what he needs. Because when it comes to safety, having answers means he and his people can breathe a little easier. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hey, I'm Jake Harward. I'm a farmer, and folks often ask me how we are able to have the freshest corn all the way to October. That's easy. We stagger our plantings. For example, this field will be perfect to pick in 2 or 3 weeks, and that field over there, not until mid-September. Stop by our green roadside stands for our picked fresh, everyday, non-GMO sweet corn, tomatoes, peaches, cantaloupe, and watermelon. Go online to harwardfarms.com for a complete list of our 21 locations around Utah. Fresh from our family's farm to your family's dinner table.
Harward Farms. For the right repair and the right paint, the right choice is manufacturer-certified Martins Collision Repair. Hi, I'm Tiago Martins. Many shops have ASC and ICAR-certified technicians, but few have certifications by General Motors, Nissan, Chrysler, Hyundai, Jeep, and many others, making Martins your right choice. Online at martinscollision.com, on State Street in Orem and in Salem, we work with all insurance companies.
The right repair, the right paint, the right choice. Martins Collision Repair.
The murder of 2 men forces their families to wrestle with impossible questions. Who is forgiveness for? Does everyone deserve a second chance? Follow Season 2 of The Letter, Ripple Effect, at theletterpodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, Utah voters will now have to decide whether to let the legislature change or repeal ballot initiatives. Second, the number of new claims for unemployment rising across the country. And third, workers at the Box Elder County Fair trying to help their event director after her house burned down. 82 degrees and sunny in Salt Lake City. Back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Well, the headline is all over the internet. This one happens to be from NBCnews.com. I got up this morning and I was catching up on the news, Rusty, and I saw this. I'm like, what is going on in Idaho? Idaho School District now needs parental consent for Band-Aids and other basic first aid. So the idea here is that, according to NBC News and other news reports, before students can get a Band-Aid or headache medicine, school nurses and staff in Boise say they got to have permission first from parents because of a new Idaho law. Yeah,
so this was Senate Bill 1329 in Idaho. And I'm going to read a little bit from the documentation. It's called a Statement of Purpose in Idaho law. And I think it'd be nice if we did the same thing here in Utah. It's a quick summary of the bill and what the intention is. And so essentially what it says, is the Parents' Rights in Medical Decision-Making Act ensures that children who often lack maturity and make choices without considering either immediate or long-term consequences are protected by the informed decision-making of their parents, who possess the most knowledge and are in the best position to ensure that their children receive adequate medical attention. So the Act clarifies that they need consent for virtually any health care given to what they call an unemancipated minor, essentially, I believe, under 18. So essentially, and so they take them at their word. And then if you look at the article that it talks about where the definition that they give of health care service is anything: diagnosis, care, screening, prevention, cure, leading all the way to illness or injury treatment. So, yeah, you cut your finger.
Mental health.
Mental health, anything that is anything in that realm. So the school district there in Boise obviously is taking them at their word, reading the statute, as you should, and saying, all right, well, it sounds like we can't even give them a Band-Aid without permission. So that is the letter of the law. I don't know if that was quite the spirit of the law, but who knows?
But that's where we're at now.
Yeah.
And when I first read that, and I'm glad that you were able to walk us through what the legislative purpose and intention was. There, right off the Idaho website,
yes.
Right? When I first saw this, my reaction was, I just, as a parent with kids in the public school system and in the private schools, I trusted teachers, the principals, the staff to make the best decision for my child in the moment. So if they fell off the ladder, when my daughter fell off the ladder from the top of the ladder, tumbled to the bottom of it. I don't even know if she tumbled to the bottom of it. I think she probably just went straight down and hit the ground. And they had to call 911, and all the kids were gathering around. And I think she was in first or second grade at the time. Maybe it was third grade. I guess I learned later from her that all the kids were gathering around at the bottom of the slide chanting, "Katie, Katie," because they wanted her to get up and be okay. And ultimately, she ended up taking a little ambulance ride up to Primary Children's Hospital, and it all ended okay. It turns out she just skinned her knee. But the school called me, and I appreciated that. I also felt a little bit like, as I was kind of driving myself up to Primary Children's to meet the ambulance there, it's like, look, just make the decision in the moment. And if you feel like my daughter's gotten hurt and it's a significant injury to the point where she deserves to be put in the back of an ambulance and carted up to Primary Children's Hospital, we'll work through the other details of later. And maybe they're worried we didn't have insurance or that. That wasn't the case. But I just want the schools to feel like in the moment when they could react as they see fit.
Yeah, and
I would if it was a child at my house playing and they fell off the slide and they hit their head or they smacked their knee so good or something like that they needed a doctor's visit. I would want parents who sent their kids to my house to feel the same way about my decision making.
Yeah, I wonder if this legislation, the intent of it, sometimes legislation is done in reaction to something that's already happened. And then oftentimes legislators hear about something in other states or some issue that they think might be coming to their state. Let's say you pick any issue and sometimes pass a law to prevent something from happening or something that they're worried about. And it maybe hasn't happened yet. And this is a pretty wide berth that they're taking here, a wide swath of, listen, any medical decision or healthcare decision, as they call it, any healthcare service for any child that is an I can't say that word.
Unemancipated.
I'm just going to say a young child, minor, just you have to get the parents' permission. And then that's the devil's in the details. We talked about that in a previous segment. And those details spell out virtually anything healthcare related. And if it includes a Band-Aid, you better call the parents.
How do you feel in terms of reaction to what I said, though, as far as like getting, allowing within reason?
Yeah.
If they saw, for example, something that my child was dealing with, some sort of mental health condition, of course, I would want them to collaborate with me if it wasn't a crisis in the moment where they needed to get my child help. But if it was something that they saw kind of as an onset or an issue that my child was dealing with, of course, I would. And that's anytime we had anything in our schools. For example, there was a situation when my oldest daughter was really young and the teacher thought that there was maybe a significant hearing problem. She pulled me aside and she said, I think there might be a significant hearing problem. I appreciated that. It's something that we may have missed. I got her, in fact, I remember sitting there with her. I think she was about 6 or 7 years old, sitting outside the glass room where they were giving her the test at another office. And she did great. She passed. She was no hearing problem. But they didn't throw her on some sort of hearing test, it was more intense than the average, hearing test that I got when I was in high school. It was a pretty intense test. But I have not had that experience where I felt like a teacher has stepped over the line at any point. But maybe some parents have, Rusty.
Yeah, I think I think the main question is, what amount of involvement at least this is in Idaho, right? And we can speak to Utah. It sounds like in Idaho, these lawmakers wanted to make it so that virtually any decision having to do with anything healthcare related, medical related, has to be run through the parents. I think there were some other underlying issues as to why they were doing this, but the real question is what amount of trust do parents want to give? Like in your case, you felt comfortable with administrators and those at schools, which is good. You would hope that they would take good care of our children while they're there, and if that trust is there, I don't think it's really a big issue. But they've got some.
They've attached some civil penalties to this if it's violated by the schools, and that's probably why the schools are being super careful with it.
Yeah.
It sounds, though, like, at least in the stories I've read, what the school districts are doing is getting out in front of this and asking parents to consent up front as opposed to one incident at a time.
Well, they actually, in the article, it was the executive director, I think, of the Boise School District. She said, quote, while it may be strange to parents who are being asked to do this, they should know that the district or charter are following the new statute created by SB 1329, and we could be faced with a civil penalty if we fail to comply. So this, they put some teeth in it, and so they're taking them at their word and saying, listen, anything under the sun, if it relates to health care, we're going to do this way. So this gets to another subject which we'll cover later, is unintended consequences of legislation or statute, right? Where there's some things that you typically need to clean up. And so many bills, this happens all the time in Utah, I'm sure it happens in Idaho and everywhere, where you pass a law or a statute, and then you need to do some cleanup, where there were just unintended consequences. Well, that's not what we meant, right? Well, you needed to clarify that, and you didn't before, so we go back and clarify and fix problems.
Yeah. Whether it was a permission slip, sometimes they got permission slips for movies. I would say,
I've had those.
Yes, they can watch that movie. I think at one permission slip I wrote on the bottom of it, I trust you.
Oh,
and I
did?
sent it back to the teacher. I trust you to make good decisions on behalf of my children.
Oh, good.
So that has been my experience in schools. I was a little surprised to see this, that parents are now being asked to consent to even something as little as a Band-Aid if a child scrapes their knee on the playground. But thanks so much for walking us through the intention of that. It's broader than that. It's other issues as well that the law covers, not just Band-Aids. Straight ahead, Utah lawmakers in special session meeting yesterday, passing legislation or approving a constitutional amendment that will land on the ballot. Okay, it's not the final approval because voters have final say.
Correct.
Rusty Cannon, co-host of KSL at Night, has some in-depth thoughts and insights on this. He's going to lay those out next.
It's 10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top local story this hour. We have high fire potential today and tomorrow. There's a fire weather watch in effect. National Weather Service meteorologist Michael Westler says high winds will be the biggest issue.
Where winds will be 30 to 45 miles per hour, perhaps as high as 58 miles per hour, especially in Box Elder County and some of the Raft River Mountains to the northwest.
Westler says humidity levels will be especially low the next couple of days. Combined with dry grass and high winds, even small sparks could cause a fire that gets out of control quickly. The Central Utah Correctional Facility in Gunnison cleaning up a huge mess after a water main break flooded the administration building. Water to the housing units has been restored, but still no water in the bathrooms. Repair crews working to get it back up. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Vice President Kamala Harris has the opportunity to make the speech of her life tonight at the Democratic National Convention. She'll be the first black woman to accept a major party nomination to be president. The vice presidential nominee, Governor Tim Walz, spoke last night, recalling his days as a teacher and a high school football coach. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average down on the day right now, 47 points. The NASDAQ is down 90. And our KSL weather. With that high fire potential, we should also see some lightning this afternoon. That's next. KSL News Time, 10:31.
It's a priority for us at this station to bring you all sides of a story and to talk about the news fairly, completely.
Get all the facts and be really aware. Utah's Morning News with us, Tim and Amanda.
Weekday mornings 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
I'm super excited to announce something so awesome for Master Electrical Service. They have joined Mountain Home Services. Master Electrical Service has been your trusted source for all your electrical needs. I keep talking about those EV chargers because you need one. You need them to come out and bid you on one. Generators, recessed lighting inside that living room. You've been needing to update that lighting, right? So give Master Electrical a call, but actually you're going to be getting in touch with Mountain Home Services and they can help you with even more, like your HVAC, heating and air, plumbing, and it all still comes with that upfront pricing guarantee, which means there are no hidden fees, 100% satisfaction guarantee. Master Electrical Service has been the name you trust since 1954. You can get a hold of them this way at mountainhomeutah.com. Again, that's mountainhomeutah.com, or give them a call, 801-543-2222. Again, 801-543-2222.
Beat the heat this summer with a desert adventure in Beatty, Nevada. Beatty is so hot that it's cool. Discover the Old West and desert beauty, loaded with family value and adventure with anything from tours, hiking, biking, ATV trails, and great eateries, and the best stargazing in the West. Beatty is the most scenic entrance to Death Valley National Park and your entryway to true desert adventure. Explore the ghost town of Rhyolite or the world-famous Nut and Candy Company and Historic Museum. Beatty has hundreds of miles of trails for hikers, mountain bikers, and off-roading. And don't forget, Beatty Days, October 25th through the 27th. Beatty Days is an entire weekend of fun, complete with Old West shootouts, ICS chili cook-offs, 2K and 5K races, live music, bed races, desert art, a classic car show, a cornhole tournament, model railroads, vendors, food, and contests for everyone. Just 95 miles from Las Vegas. For info, visit BeattyNevada.org. Tell them you heard it on the radio and get a free gift at BeattyNevada.org.
Nearly 70% of Utah's land is controlled by the federal government, severely limiting Utah's ability to actively manage and protect our natural resources. Our families, businesses, and communities know there's a better way. Utahns have been good stewards of our public lands for generations. That's why we're asking each and every Utahn to get informed, speak up, and learn more at standforourland.utah.gov.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. And here's Heather Kelly.
Looks like all of our earlier accidents in Utah County have cleared, and traffic is now flowing freely southbound I-15 as you make your way from the point of the mountain all the way down into Springville. The rest of the drive in Salt Lake and Davis counties also at good speeds, whether you're on I-15, the east or west side belt routes, or even going I-80 through Parley's Canyon. Get triple reward points on your Rewards Visa card from Cypress Credit Union when you spend on gas and travel from now until August. Learn more or apply today at cypresscu.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Well, there's a good chance of thunder showers and potential flash flooding in parts of Utah today and tomorrow. We'll dry out and cool off Saturday and Sunday. Right now, 84 degrees and sunny. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories. On KSL News Radio, Eye on the Hill 2024. Special coverage with Dave and Dujanovic.
Well, as you know, if you listened yesterday, Utah lawmakers meeting in special session on Capitol Hill to consider a constitutional amendment that will land on the November ballot. Many see this as the legislature's a way of wholesale being able to dismiss ballot initiatives. But Rusty Cannon, you may have a different point of view.
Yeah, I think that's the wrong way to characterize it. What it is the trying to keep the ability with the legislature to modify statute. All right, so what happened with this recent Supreme Court decision is they said, based on some old constitutional language in the Utah Constitution, they were saying, okay, if a ballot initiative has to do with the function of government, if I have the term right, or the way that government is run, then in some cases you cannot touch the citizen initiative. You can't change it, you can't modify it or anything. That could be problematic because then you get to the definition of, well, what is the function of government, right? And that type of thing. So you can create what some have termed, a super law that you can't be changed. So if I'm in the House and you're in the Senate, Debbie, and I pass a bill out of the House, I can't say, well, you can't change it. You can't modify it. Debbie, I know in the Senate, it's just you have to take it as is, no changes. Laws can't work that way. We have to be able to change statute anytime because there's unintended consequences. A lot of these bills that come through, there's 5, 6, 7, 8 substitutes, they're called, the versions of the bill before it finally passes.
Just on Capitol Hill.
Just on Capitol Hill.
Right.
Yeah, and a citizen initiative is written by just a few people, and it is up or down vote, and it says what it says.
But this is the part that's the bone of contention, is that citizens have this ability to be able to vote up or down, whether they want some sort of an initiative passed. So some of the more, the ones we've heard a lot about is medical marijuana. That came through a citizens initiative.
Yes.
Medicaid expansion. That came via citizens initiative. And often, just in my experience here, Rusty, is that citizens get frustrated with like a slow-moving machine or just hitting speed bumps on Capitol Hill or total walls where they can't get lawmakers to agree on things like maybe medical marijuana. And so they run it on a ballot, and people vote in favor of it. It passes. So my understanding of the Supreme Court ruling isn't that the Supreme Court came out and said, and this is all based on the redistricting maps and also the Citizens Initiative that drove redistricting maps and the commission that went around the state redrawing our congressional boundaries, that they just can't wholesale throw it out, that lawmakers can't look at the initiative that passed and say, yeah, okay, we're going to put that aside, and we're going to go with our own maps.
Yeah.
But that the Supreme Court ruling in the fine print did leave room that lawmakers can amend government reform on ballot, can amend ballot initiatives to some degree, but the changes just cannot be, we're going to push the delete button on that.
Yeah, and I think it comes down to disagreement over what that function of government is after their ruling in the Supreme Court. So what the legislature is trying to do, from my understanding, is to say, well, let's take all uncertainty out of this. Because at this point, the way it is now, we would leave it up to the courts. If you really want to push an issue and it goes to court and people litigate over it, which is going to happen if we don't change anything, then it comes down to, in this case, the Supreme Court of Utah deciding, okay, this one stays with no changes, that one does or doesn't. Versus the other way, which some, or I certainly believe, in a representative form of government, you elect those to make those decisions and to modify as needed and to pass laws, and it's a representative government. We've all voted for them, and that's how that system works, right? And it can be changed. The worry is that based on this ruling, without this constitutional amendment, there are now, we'll use that term again, super laws that you just can't touch, right? And that could be problematic.
And that's what Senator Kirk Collimore, who sponsored this, talked about.
We also don't have any law or case law to advise on how long these super laws are untouchable, and that needs to simply be addressed.
That supports your point of view.
Yeah, and that's his point. I think that is their entire point. And this is going to be interesting to see how this unfolds with voters in November, because the reason they did it now is to try to make sure we get this clarified now, because otherwise we've got to wait till 2026. And after the decision by the Supreme Court, you can bet there will be a lot, or could be quite a few, ballot initiatives in 2026. And the worry is that we become more like California, where we have a lot of initiatives run. Do you know how many? There are 11 initiatives on the ballot in California this year. 11.
I've heard that, and we rarely have that I remember initiatives on our ballot. So far,
the worry is that will change.
Okay, so let me push back on you.
Yeah.
When you talk about the legislature's concern and not being able to change initiatives that are passed by the voters, I look back on medical marijuana. They made changes to that.
They did, yeah.
I look back on Medicaid reform.
Mm-hmm.
They made changes to that.
They did, yeah.
So doesn't that mean they already have the ability to make the changes?
Yeah, they do. They're trying to make sure that they retain that ability. So what happened is the voters wanted Medicaid expansion. They got it. There were some modifications put in to make sure we can pay for it and make sure it doesn't get out of control. They wanted medical marijuana. They got it. There were some modifications to make sure that it runs smoothly and there's no unintended consequences or things getting out of hand where obviously bad things are happening. They got what they wanted with modifications. The issue with the redistricting is that goes back to a whole other question. Is in the Constitution it gives the legislative branch the power on redistricting. And they were saying, well, that's our power. We're gonna use it, right? And you got a independent commission drawing maps. They chose to ignore it. Now, maybe that was the wrong decision, but it was, they claim, a decision that they were entitled to. So that's a separate question. But now going forward, the worry is, like Senator Collimore was talking about, and we'll hear from Speaker Mike Schultz or some others that are quite fired up about this. If you carry this to an extreme, there's a reason to worry in some people's minds, and we can talk about it.
Senator Daniel Thatcher, he was one of 9 Republicans who voted against this, and here's what he had to say.
I think this is unlikely to pass in November, but it is likely to give us the biggest black eye we've ever had as a legislature.
And it goes to the ballot in November.
Yeah. This won't be the only one on the ballot. We have the other one coming on the constitutional earmark on income tax. So that's another dynamic. We will now have 2 major issues on the ballot.
And that has to do with removing
the earmark on income tax and removing the state sales tax on food.
And the earmark on income tax means that income tax that the state collects goes to education.
Right now it does. They're asking that it can be used for everything. Yeah, and that's a whole other issue. So we're forgetting that's also on the ballot already.
I'm still hung up on this issue, though, of that lawmakers were able to tweak and change medical marijuana and Medicaid. Yeah. But now, because of the Supreme Court ruling, they're concerned that this is some sort of like handcuff that they'll never be able to change initiatives in the future. Yet, when I look at when I read the news reports on the Supreme Court ruling, they're just basically saying you just can't throw everything out.
Yeah.
You just have to make sure, that you're only making, kind of some minor tweaks.
Yeah. And there's a lot of misinformation, I think, on both sides on this. But what it really comes down to is according to the Supreme Court of Utah, if it is a ballot initiative that has to do with the function of government, if I'm using, it might have been a different term slightly, you can't touch it. And that in some people's minds is dangerous. And there could be a lot of unintended consequences if a ballot initiative is poorly written, poorly misunderstood, and then implemented, and then we can't change it. That could be quite problematic.
Let's get KSL 5 Television's Lindsay Aerts, who's been covering this constitutional amendment and also the special session, on air with us next to get her latest information and her take on this constitutional amendment next.
Dave and Dujanovic.
You know KSL is the only news radio for your car, right?
The only news radio for your smart speaker.
Come here in the morning. It's the latest news and traffic. In the afternoon, news and updated weather.
We have you covered at KSL News Radio.
Let me tell you, folks, this is Dave Noriega here. You don't have to be a scientist because I've already done this for you. If you take 2 water heaters and you run one with hard water the entire life, and then you run one with soft water its entire life, which one's going to last longer? I can tell you from firsthand experience, the soft water lasted years longer. In fact, hard water just breaks down anything that it touches. It's part of the reason why I called Connecticut of Utah and said, hey, can you come out to my house? I'm thinking about getting soft water. And they walked me through every part of my house that hard water touches and affects. And I'll tell you, ever since the change, it has made a world of difference. My wife and I, my family, we love having soft water in our house. So if you're interested, give Connecticut of Utah a call. They're an authorized Connecticut dealer at 801-576-8600. That's 801-576-8600. Or you can log on to softwaterutah.com.
Attention! If you owe money to the IRS, this is an urgent message. The IRS is cracking down by sending out heart-stopping letters, aggressively garnishing paychecks, seizing bank accounts, and putting liens on homes and businesses. They call it enforced compliance, and you better watch out because penalties and interest on unpaid taxes compound daily, making it seem impossible to ever get out of debt. Don't let the tax debt destroy your life. You need to call Optima Tax Relief, the #1 tax resolution firm. They're experts in the Fresh Start Initiative, one of the biggest breaks that the IRS has ever offered. If you qualify, you could save thousands. Optima's resolved over $1 billion of tax debt for their clients. A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, they'll fight to get you the best deal possible. Call Optima now for a free consultation.
Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
This is Derek Overstreet of the New Millennium Group and host of Stop Working and Start Living Radio. If you're close to or in retirement and you don't have a tax plan, call us right now, 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. Listen, our country's been spending like never before, and the tax bill is coming soon. If you need an income tax strategy and a financial plan that will get you through the rest of your life, give my team a call, 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. If you want an investment plan that allows you to keep more of your gains and pay less taxes, give us a call, 888-999-6370. My team specializes in the type of plan that will get you retired 3 to 5 years sooner than you thought possible. So, get a no-cost tax analysis by calling 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. My team is standing by now.
Any Hour Services free furnace sale is going on right now. If you haven't scheduled your free estimate yet, what are you waiting for? Call Any Hour Services today or schedule online at anyhourservices.com.
Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors. Did you know that we offer 3 distinct styles of gutter protection? Each one meant to handle a specific leaf problem. You might not even know there are different styles of gutter protection, but there are. And if you pick the wrong one, it could be a huge waste of money. Now, the big gutter guard companies won't tell you this. They try to sell you a one-size-fits-all gutter guard. And it could be completely wrong for the amount and types of trees and leaves you have. Not RGS Exteriors. We understand which kind of leaf problem needs which kind of gutter guard. We'll do an in-depth evaluation to assess the types, locations, and numbers of trees in your yard. Based on that data, we match your home to the right gutter guard. So don't risk wasting money on the wrong gutter protection. For a free evaluation and estimate, call RGS Exteriors at 801-280-3110 or visit rgsexteriors.com. That's 801-280-3110 or rgsexteriors.com.
We have made it so easy for you to get the top 3 stories of the day with the 3 Things You Need to Know newsletter. It is teamwork between KSL 5 Television and KSL News Radio. We're collating all day long the top 3 things that you need to know. We send it right to your email. Super easy to get, and it's free. You can subscribe now by simply texting the word inbox to 57500. Again, that's inbox to 57500.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, Utah voters will now have to decide whether to let the legislature change or repeal ballot initiatives. Second, the number of new claims for unemployment rising across the country. And third, workers at the Box Elder County Fair trying to help their event director after her house burned down. 82 degrees and sunny in Salt Lake City. Back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic.
There's been a lot of concern and pushback over the constitutional amendment, but lawmakers decided, it'll land on the ballot in November for voters to decide.
Right now we are experiencing an unprecedented high level of mistrust in politics, and I don't believe that this is helping.
That Senate Minority Whip, Kathleen Reeby, she voted against it, but there were plenty of votes in favor of it. Rusty Cannon in today for Dave Noriega, often co-host of KSL at Night, and you also are the president of the Utah Credit Union Association.
Yeah, a lot of us were up there yesterday. There was interim meetings as well. So, every month they have, well, not every month, but most months in the off season throughout the summer, fall, and the spring, they'll have interim committees. And yesterday they put on top of that this special legislative session to deal with the ballot initiative that will be coming this fall.
And all week long, we've been hearing here at KSL News Radio from House Speaker Mike Schultz and others on Capitol Hill. He's called the show twice this week. We've been able to talk to him. He said, he's been having some really big concerns over ballot initiatives and where these could land. And after the Supreme Court ruling just a month and a half ago, that Supreme Court ruling might tie the hands of lawmakers if a ballot initiative passes and it's, really difficult or really expensive or just doesn't fit within bounds of our laws for lawmakers to implement.
The real concern comes around ballot initiatives. And can the legislature make changes, modifications to ballot initiatives, or do they just become super laws that can never be changed? We would like, as a legislature, to continue to have the authority to make changes as needed to the ballot initiatives. because a lot of times what the voters pass just doesn't work. And so we need to be able to have that ability to come in and make changes and modifications to it to make it work.
Let's bring on KSL 5 Television's Lindsay Aerts. You've been tracking this and helping us understand it all week long. Linz, what do you think voters should know?
Okay, so on your ballot in November, you're going to get a yes or no question. And we don't have the specific question yet because it still has to be written, right, and put on the ballot, which is happening as we speak, right? So I can't really say, here's the question that's going to be, but essentially it's going to propose a yes or no question. So it's going to say, do you want the legislature to have the ability to amend, reform, repeal citizen-led ballot initiatives? And you'll be able to vote yes or no. And it's really just an up or down vote, but you're going to see over the next 2 months campaigning around this. You're going to see
be a lot of campaigning.
Yeah, you're going to see groups coming out opposed to it, probably arguing along the lines of this is the legislature trying to usurp the will of the people. You'll probably see the other side come out and say, we need this, otherwise Utah is going to be run by initiative and create policies that don't fit within our ideals here. And so you're going to see messaging on both sides. So just heads up for that as you make your way towards November.
Yeah, there'll be a lot of talk about this. And the speaker, I think I wanted to clarify one thing. When he says something like something that they do just doesn't work, not talking about the general idea behind it, but talking about specifics, right? And I mentioned earlier, there's often times with bills 6, 7, 8 substitutes or versions to iron out wrinkles, get rid of unintended consequences. Because sometimes things have all the good intent in the world, but they just need to be clarified.
Yeah, or our
budget
needs to be balanced or
you gotta
something
pay for
like
it.
that. Right, yeah. Or they don't want it to bankrupt the state, which I think citizens would agree with, right? But I think where the issue is coming in is that it just gives lawmakers the ability to change it so much that it could lose its effect. Right.
Yeah,
and so
that's the concern.
that's really the concern from a lot of the chatter I'm seeing online is that it just gives them this ability that doesn't really have a check on it.
Yeah, the other thing that was in the bill yesterday is they actually made it easier to do these initiatives. They increased the timeline from 40 days to 60 days to gather signatures.
And
so there's no curtailing of initiative ability at all.
Right. So what it does is it says if voters, you pass this constitutional amendment, if you change our constitution in November, then we will make it easier for you to repeal laws via referendum, and we'll make it easier for statewide initiatives to get on the ballot by increasing the time to gather signatures. It also says we will give deference to the intent of the initiative. That deference just means we'll give weight to what the voters intended, right? But it allows the legislature to determine what that intent is. So that is where I think there's some pushback of, well, if you ultimately have control to determine what our intent is and you have the ability to repeal, what is the purpose of a citizen ballot initiative if you can just ultimately change it?
So when I hear this conversation, I think, well, if you're interested in running a ballot initiative that's just going to be repealed by Utah lawmakers or has the potential to be repealed or gives Utah lawmakers the option to essentially cancel your initiative, why run the initiative and spend the money to begin with? Is this going to be a way, whether it's intended or unintended consequences, to make it just to the point where it doesn't make running an initiative worth it? What are your thoughts, Rusty?
Well, I think it would be pretty rare or almost never happen to where if something is popular enough to pass as an initiative, it needs obviously 50% plus one to pass, right? So you have a majority that supports it. I don't see a legislature that is also representatively elected then overturning that in most cases, right?
Yeah.
Because you're just going to get voted out of office. You're going against literally the will of the people because they all supported it. But the issue is, can you modify it, change it? They do have the word repeal in it. I don't really ever see that being used.
Right, but I think the key is you modify it so much that it changes its intent or arguably changes its intent, right? And that's where we see ourselves right now is we're saying, did the legislature change independent redistricting so much that it's not independent anymore, right? And did it change the meaning? And we'll ultimately have a court weigh in on that. But
and this really starts with that redistricting issue, when the citizens say, "Yeah, we want a commission." The commission forms. They go around the state. They take input. They draw the congressional maps, and then lawmakers say, "Oh, we got our our own maps. And so I think I can see why people would be concerned that lawmakers, when you say they wouldn't throw it out, they did. They did that already, right, Rusty?
Yeah,
with
well,
the
yeah, on that
maps. I
separate
mean, they've
question with
done
the
that.
maps, they did. They chose to ignore the independent commission's maps.
I guess what
but
my
to
point
your
is
point,
they,
Rusty, I think
they've done it. They've done that.
And what lawmakers are arguing is voters wanted Medicaid expansion. They have that. Voters wanted medical cannabis. They have that. Voters wanted an independent commission. They have that.
Yeah.
So they're arguing that they've shown deference to the initiatives in the past, but other folks are arguing, well, you've changed them so much that they're not what we intended.
Yeah, and then there's also a concern about outside money, which they've talked a lot about. And these ballot initiatives are typically funded by outside money, meaning out-of-state money. And that is a concern to some people, and it's fair. And I will fully disclose, we were advocating for a bill last session to do a change to the Constitution if any citizen initiative hikes taxes,
right,
to require it to have 60%. And we documented a few ballot
Rusty.
initiatives, yes,
Good to know.
where most of these initiatives, in a lot of cases, are paid for by completely out-of-state money. That's a bit of a worry.
And I wonder if this initiative, if this amendment doesn't pass in November, will we see changes to the initiative process like that in the future?
Very good question.
Lindsay, you've raised a new intriguing question. I know you're going to help us track it along with our team of reporters and producers here at KSL News Radio. Thanks so much for Lindsay Airds for jumping in studio with us here of KSL 5 Television. You've been doing some excellent coverage and keeping us in the loop on what's going up on Capitol Hill. The changes, the constitutional amendment appearing on the ballot in November. As soon as you get the language, how that looks, make sure you share it with us so we can share it with our listeners.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour, we have breaking news. Former President Donald Trump's visit to Park City next week is being postponed. The fundraising event was originally scheduled for August 29th. Utah's Republican Party confirms it will not be that day. It'll be rescheduled for another date. This is the second time Trump has rescheduled his visit to Utah. The Republican National Committee says it's due to changes in his schedule. A man is dead following an officer-involved shooting in Layton last night. Police say this started when a woman called saying her husband was having a mental health crisis and had a gun. Layton Police Lieutenant Travis Lyman says they tried talking to the man before they heard a gunshot inside the house.
And then a short time later, the man came out of the front door of the house holding two guns, a rifle and a pistol.
Now, Lyman says that's when officers shot him. He was taken to the hospital but has since passed away. The woman was not hurt, nor were the officers. They're now on paid leave. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. comes from one of America's best-known political families, but apparently he has no family support for his presidential campaign. ABC News reports Kennedy is planning to give up his independent campaign and throw his support to one of the major party candidates. The rest of the family is backing Vice President Harris. Your money at this moment. The Dow Jones average down on the day now, 194 points. The NASDAQ also down today, 184. And our KSL weather. Looks like we could see more thunderstorms this afternoon. That's next. KSL News Time, 11:01.
Here's a way to get breaking news updates anywhere you go.
At the store or in a work meeting, you can get breaking news on your phone.
You can quickly read it, swipe, or click for more. It's super discreet, super fast.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
Discover the best of senior living at Trio Orem and Trio South Ogden. Today's older adults aren't wrapping up their life's journey, they're seeking a new one. And Trio Independent Living is here to help them do just that. With a smart, modern, and connected lifestyle, residents cultivate relationships and maximize independence through signature programs like Prime Fit Wellness that bring living well and well-being to life. Welcome to the new age of senior living. Schedule your visit at leisurecare.com/Utah today.
Looking for a beautiful and functional upgrade to your home?
3 Day Blinds has you covered. At 3 Day Blinds, our free in-home design consultation makes it easy. A 3 Day Blinds design expert will help you find the window treatment solution that works best for your home's needs and style. We bring the showroom to you with loads of samples, giving you an idea of how different fabrics look in your home. Your designer also provides expert measurements and helps coordinate installation. Book your free in-home consultation by visiting 3dayblinds.com. Take control of your window treatments with Motorized by 3 Day Blinds. Whether you're at home or on vacation, you can operate your window treatments with the touch of a button using the 3 Day Blinds app. 3 Day Blinds has specialized in window treatments for more than 40 years, and it's the name people trust. At 3 Day Blinds, we have stylish and functional window treatments for any occasion. For your free custom same-day quote, schedule your free in-home design consultation now at 3dayblinds.com. That's 3dayblinds.com.
What would happen if you had instant access to your own coach and dietitian to help you lose that frustrating few pounds, the inches that are keeping you from your active and healthy lifestyle? Well, I'll tell you what happened to me when I tapped into my SOTA weight loss, SOTA weight loss specialist. I lost 37 pounds in 90 days. And I have stayed at that exact weight for 2.5 years. So if you want instant access to those kind of results, go to sodaweightloss.com right now, click on the Request a Nutritionist callback, and within minutes, you'll have instant access talking to someone who can help you get in the best shape of your life. You have heard me say it many times that when it comes to your SOTA weight loss journey, there's no time to lose, there's only time to win. So start winning today. No drugs, no fads, just a swift, safe, sustainable results, state-of-the-art weight loss. Check it out today at sotaweightloss.com, sotaweightloss.com.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. Here's Heather Kelly.
We've got a crash on the 201 freeway. This is eastbound. It's about halfway between 5600 West and Bangor Highway. It involves a semi. They're blocking the right lane and shoulder. There's not enough traffic right now to cause any type of slowdown through that stretch, but you want to use caution and stay to your left. And then if you're trying to get to the 201 freeway from Bangor Highway, we do have a bit of congestion between 3100 South and the 201 freeway on-ramps. Fill up your bucket list in Box Elder County. History, recreation, wildlife, excellent dining, and shopping await you. Learn more at visitboxeldercounty.com, sponsored by the Utah Office of Tourism. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Well, there's a good chance of thunder showers and potential flash flooding today and tomorrow. We'll dry out and cool off Saturday and Sunday. Right now, 84 degrees, sunny, but with some wind right now. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories. On KSL News Radio, Dave and Dujanovic have inside sources.
Talking to Boyd Matheson of Inside Sources right now, along with Rusty Cannon, who's filling in for Dave Noriega. Rusty, you just said you were spent yesterday on Utah's Capitol Hill, so that must have been in your... Is that in your capacity of KSL at Night host or in your capacity as the president of the Utah
day job? Yeah, day job.
Credit Union Association.
Yeah, day job stuff.
And Boyd, you know Rusty.
Oh, we do.
Yeah.
Yes, we've known each other a long time.
Rusty and I spent some time earlier in the show talking to one of the delegates who went back from Cache County to Chicago and was in the arena last night as Tim Walz, vice presidential nominee, was speaking.
But you know what? Never underestimate a public school teacher. Never.
Truly kind of felt the moment of the night was a lot like what Rusty and I felt was his son.
Boyd, I thought I love great speeches. Yeah. And he had the applause lines right, at least the parts that I saw. Applause lines right, timing was good. He had it just. I thought it was a well done speech.
Yeah.
Obviously the content is another thing, but the speech was, I thought, well done.
Yeah, exactly. If you always have to take the politics out of it. The rhetoric, I think, was really well. There was only one segment that I thought he sort of missed on, and it's when he went from this idea space that they've been on, this positive message, forward looking, and there was a couple of minutes kind of in the middle where he kind of put on what has traditionally been the vice president nominee role, the attack dog mode. and he went into attack mode. He kind of went into Project 2025 and the conspiracy theories around that and what, President Trump was going to do that. And he lost the room. He lost the room for a minute. And then he got it back when he went right back to school teacher, and then he went to his football coach. I mean, if you squinted your eyes last night, you would have sworn you were in the high school gymnasium right before the homecoming football game, marching down the field. And when he was in that space, it was really well done. But he was not the only one who felt that same thing. I think this is the most fascinating thing for me to watch over the course of the first 3 days has been the people, regardless of who they are, when they go to making Donald Trump the threat to democracy, existential threat to the world, when they go there, even Nancy Pelosi yesterday missed it. She barely got golf claps.
Really?
Nancy Pelosi at a Democratic convention barely got golf claps yesterday. And so to me, that is such an interesting indication that at a big-time political rally, the delegates in the room said, we're tired of that stuff. And I think they've started to recognize the best way to take on former President Trump is not to make him an existential threat, but it's to make him really small. And those that did that, I thought Bill Clinton did a brilliant job of just making him small and staying away from that and saying, hey, what we really have to do, I think Bill Clinton's best line of the night was, we need to meet people where they are. We need to have we need to do this different. We need to learn some lessons. And I thought that was pretty interesting stuff.
That's a pretty honest take from him. I mean, if you look back historically now, he was fairly centrist in his policies.
In his governing,
in his governing.
Yeah.
And that's how history is written about him. I didn't realize he made that point. That is a very good point.
Yeah, and this is how in tune he is. Like, I don't know if there's ever been a more savvy politician than Bill Clinton. And he read the room from the previous 2 nights, and he tore up his speech yesterday.
Really?
And rewrote it and just got rid of a lot of it and just went down this much more path of not just joy and happiness. People are kind of giving that a bad run, but this idea of being hopeful, of moving forward. And we can have our disagreements, but I think what they're recognizing is to win this year, you have to get the movable middle. And you don't get those people by yelling and screaming and setting things on fire and whacking people over the head. You do it by meeting people where they are, having a hopeful message. And so that's going to be the interesting thing moving forward.
I thought it was really important for VP nominee Tim Walz to address his record.
Then I came back to serve as governor, and we got right to work, making a difference in our neighbors' lives. We cut taxes for the middle class. We passed paid family and medical leave. We invested in fighting crime and affordable housing. We cut the cost of prescription drugs and helped people escape the kind of medical debt that nearly sank my family.
He addressed the fact that his father had died when he was younger and left behind, sadly, because of his cancer, medical bills that, as he alluded to, almost sank his family. I felt like within his policy, whether you agree or not, the things that he's done in Minnesota, at least, okay, that was an opportunity to get to know
he owned it,
who he is, what he stands for. And then he kind of peppered in this sort of this everyman approach. And I wonder if that's going to resonate with voters.
Yeah, it is so important in the blue wall, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Ohio. Those are critical swing states that ticket has to win in order to win the White House, and it will play very well in all of those places. That's why he's on the ticket, is to give that exact message. And I thought one of the greatest moments of the night was watching his son.
Thank you.
We talked about
just having that moment of, that's my dad. Nothing will be more endearing. That may be the lasting image of the DNC in Chicago. Above all the other things, that might actually be the moment.
Yeah, that plays so much better than, like you mentioned,
Yeah.
a little bit of the vitriol,
Yeah.
That kind of thing. I think that image will go 20 miles further.
His
than
if
5
you
feet
missed
the other
it,
stuff
his
gets.
17-year-old son stood up when his dad walked out to take the podium and started saying, like, that's my dad. That's my dad.
So emotional.
Love you, Dad.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know, his 17-year-old son has what they can say is a nonverbal disorder, that he has issues with like spatial awareness, and also ADHD, high anxiety. So this was a moment watching his son tear up and scream, "That's my dad." I was crying when I saw that, and I just it just brought tears to my own eyes. And again, that goes back to me, being the every dad.
Yeah, and just that relatability. And for many people, when they looked at this ticket, that was part of the question. It's always been part of the question for Kamala Harris, that authenticity, that relatability, her challenges, on the stump and in front of a podium, to really connect with audiences that way. Again, that's part of the reason why Tim Walz is on this ticket, because as much as good as that did for people to get to know a little bit about Tim Walz, that was ginormous for the vice president. Kamala Harris needed that softening of the ticket, and that's what happened in that magical moment last night.
Yeah, softening, it's a good way to put it. I was curious in your opinion with all your experience. How long does this last, right? Coming out of it. I mentioned to poor Debbie here earlier, I can't wait for policy to be discussed. And,
yes.
Let's talk about the nuts and bolts here.
And I'm so glad you raised that, Rusty, because that is going to be the challenge. So the vice president has to tee this up today. She has to say, yep, we've had a blast here in Chicago. We've raised the roof. We've talked about all kinds of positive things. And now the real work begins. And I think that's going to be the test, especially for those independent voters and those people. The challenge has been for the Democrats, even when Joe Biden was still the nominee, was they wanted to tout these things that they did that they think are really good. And some of them are really good in terms of the economy, but it's not congruent with what the American people are living or experiencing around their kitchen table. And so I can already see the ads that the Republicans are probably building right now that says, paying this much for groceries does not bring me joy. Paying this much for gas does not bring me joy. Yeah. Are you joyful that we've got, this many people coming across the border? Does that bring you joy? So you can kind of see where the counter messaging is going to come if President Trump ever chooses to talk about principle and policy. I mean, he actually has the advantage. If you look underneath the polling numbers, the former president has an advantage on most of the big issues in terms of people believing my life will be better, my economics will be better. He gave yesterday what was touted as a national security speech, and I'm not quite sure he mentioned national security. He called for Comrade Kamala 27 different times in 6 different ways, and Rusty, this as well as anybody. Rarely are campaigns won; they're usually lost.
Correct,
and they're usually lost because you cannot manage your weaknesses. It's always about that.
Got to get on message.
And so that'll be the question. If they get on message, then suddenly the joy message comes to, I love joy, I love freedom, I love happiness. I wish Ronald Reagan was walking in the door. I swear he was going to show up at the Democratic Convention this week. It was a Morning in America. It was Morning in America in Chicago. But then if people get up in the morning and they can't pay their bills and the struggle, that's going to be incongruent. And that will be the test of the fall campaign.
Yeah. It's always neat to hear your perspective, just all your experience and all you do. This is a good summary of what went on before and what we're going to see tonight.
What we'll hear tonight, it will carry the day. The transition between the last of the convention and Labor Day will be fascinating, and that will really set the pace. And I still think we have a couple of major events that are going to come that nobody's planning for that will also set the tone and give both candidates a chance to respond, react, or lead authentically. And I think that'll carry those independents and carry the day.
All right. Well, we'll get your take tomorrow on Kamala Harris and her speech tonight. Boyd Matheson of Inside Sources, 1 to 3 right here on KSL News Radio. Straight ahead, let's dive back into that hot topic we started with this morning. Public school is free, right? Until you get the bill for your child's high school fees. Utah lawmaker joining the line straight ahead to walk us through what Capitol Hill is trying to do to curb school fees.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Dave and Debbie go out of their way to make sure you hear all sides of a story.
They're working the phones to get several viewpoints on for you.
Hi, it's Tim and Amanda. We get you the full story, too.
We have you covered on KSL News Radio.
Someone asked me, do you know how many devices the average home has connected to their Wi-Fi network? It's way more than I thought. I actually went home and counted how many connected devices I own. More than a dozen. All to keep me connected to my good stuff, my streaming, my gaming, all my interneting. Xfinity knows the number of devices we connect to our internet is growing by the year. That's why they engineered their gateways to handle hundreds of connected devices. Hundreds. For real. Now through September 21st, new customers can get Xfinity Gig Internet for $25 a month for 2 years when you add Xfinity Mobile with unlimited data. Plus, get Peacock Premium, a $7.99 monthly value included. Make sure your home Wi-Fi can handle everything you throw at it, and then some. Visit Xfinity.com, call 1-800-XFINITY, or visit a store to switch today. Xfinity. Bring on the good stuff. Restrictions apply. Requires paperless billing and auto pay with stored bank account, equipment, taxes, and fees extra. Gig Wi-Fi requires Xfinity Gateway. Xfinity Mobile requires Xfinity Internet. After promo, regular internet rates apply. Actual speeds vary.
The Cougars are back in the business of rivalry.
We have TCU and Baylor, but at the top is Utah and BYU.
The big time in the Big 12 just got bigger.
The Cougars win it! The Cougars win it! And here come the fans!
9 days to the season kickoff. BYU, Southern Illinois. Listen to Cougar Tracks for updates each day. 7:55 in the morning and 5:55 in the afternoon on Utah's legacy home of the Cougars. KSL News Radio.
My wife and I always loved doing everything together. Jiu-jitsu, kayaking, and intimacy was always on point. It was around my early 30s when I noticed a downward trend. Watching a lot of TV, putting on weight, and just full of self-doubt. I had tried another men's clinic with disappointing results. It's the personalized treatment I receive at Revive Men's Health that has been the complete game changer for me. I've got my energy and motivation back, I'm feeling stronger than I did in my 20s, and it made me a much better husband to my wife.
I'm Eric Ramos, healthcare provider at Revive Men's Health. If you're always feeling tired or moody, have a difficult time sleeping, or decreased libido, you may be suffering from low testosterone.
Book your free T-check and exam at Revive Men's Health, Salt Lake City. Call 801-263-7777. That's 801-263-7777. Or visit ReviveMen'sHealth.com.
Why choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can I make my side softer?
Can I make my side firmer whenever I want? Can we sleep cooler? Sleep Number does that. Cools up to 8 times faster and lets you choose your ideal comfort on either side. 94% of Sleep Number smart sleepers report better sleep. J.D. Power ranks Sleep Number #1 in customer satisfaction with mattresses purchased in-store. And now, during our biggest sale of the year, save 50% on the Sleep Number Limited Edition smart bed. Limited time. For J.D. Power 2023 award information, visit jdpower.com/awards. To find a store near you, visit sleepnumber.com.
Progressive presents Renter's MVP's Most Valuable Possessions. Today's MVP, Emily Neal's 70-inch TV. Because after watching her second-grade students yell at each other for hours, there's nothing Emily enjoys more than watching super-rich housewives also yell at each other. Why? Because those women are not her responsibility. And that's why her TV is today's MVP. Keep your most valuable possessions protected by bundling your renters and auto insurance with Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers not available in all states.
Power outages happen year-round and they're always unexpected. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and some people have medical equipment that needs to stay on, or maybe you don't want the hundreds of dollars of food in the freezer to spoil. Regardless of the reasons, Any Hour Services can help with a backup generator. Now, a lot of people think that backup generators cost thousands of dollars, but we have packages that'll run the essentials and start at less than $2,500. That includes the generator, the connections from the generator to the house, and the installation. We also carry and install larger generators that can run the whole house and kick on automatically when the power goes out. Of course, those cost more, but if you call right now, you can save $1,000 on any standby generator purchase over 9,000 watts. A licensed electrician from Any Hour Services will walk you through the process and show you what options are available. And if you need it, we have flexible financing options available, even if you've been told no in the past. To schedule a free estimate, call Any Hour Services today. Google Any Hour Services or schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, former President Trump has postponed a fundraising trip to Utah that had been scheduled for later this month. Second, a man died in an officer-involved shooting last night in Layton. Third, Robert F. Kennedy's independent presidential campaign has been losing momentum. Even his well-known political family is supporting another candidate. 84 degrees, partly cloudy and windy in Salt Lake City. Back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic. Back to school. Special coverage with Dave and Dujanovic.
Well, it is back to school time, and so a lot of parents are getting sticker shock when they sign their kids up for free public school, right? You think your taxes have already covered that until you get the bill for your child's, like, their high school fees. hundreds of dollars.
Or thousands.
That's right.
Cases.
Rusty Cannon, a frequent guest host or host of KSL at Night, in for Dave Noriega. You brought some sticker shock to the show when you said what you and your wife had paid for your kiddos to go back to school.
Yeah. Last 4 years, we paid over $8,000 in fees. Highest year was over $3,500. Last year, it went down a little bit to $960. But year to date, we've already paid $1,294.
You think it's going to go up?
Oh, I'm sure it will. Yeah.
And is this for your kids?
Well, that's before it possibly plays basketball, because then it goes through the roof.
But this is for like marching band and
yeah. Well, there's no marching band now. Previously, some of those did have the marching band in it, and it was like $1,500. Yeah.
Earlier in the show, and we'll go over some of them again. We were going through a list of fees from just the Murray School District. All the schools districts have fees, and they're posted online, and it gets very pricey, as you pointed out. And in fact, we took live phone calls from our listeners, and we said, how much did you pay in school fees this year? In preparation for bringing a lawmaker on, we're going to talk to him in just a moment to ask what Utah's Capitol Hill is doing to curb some of these school fees.
I have 2 high schoolers, a middle schooler, and 2 elementary school kids. And on the day of registration, I paid $1,600. However, I have a daughter on the drill team, so I think total fees for her is close to $3,000. And then last year, my son did marching band, so that was $900. So I easily give Canyon School District $4,000 to $5,000, last year, and I'll be somewhere close to that this year as well.
So the question is what are policymakers doing about this? So we're lucky to now have with us Representative Mark Strong. He represents the 47th District in the Utah House of Representatives. Thanks for joining us today, Mark.
Thank you, and man, you are lucky to have me today.
That's right. It's always a lucky day with Mr. Strong.
I'm still recovering from yesterday.
Oh, it's a special session.
Long day. So,
yeah, it's a long day and kind of stressful.
So I watched you for 2 to 3 years try to pass legislation that was finally done this year in 2024 to do something about these fees. Can you tell listeners what does the bill that you sponsored do or not do?
Yeah, so actually that was the third year we'd run it. Adam Robertson, representative down in Provo, ran it first, and then he had to leave the legislature. So I ran it twice, and we were able to pass it last year. So the intent of the bill, and just before I get too far, I want you to know we're working on this still. There's a lot of moving parts, and truthfully, I didn't realize how many moving parts there are. But as we work with educators and everybody and all the budgets and stuff, we're finding that it's really complicated. So the intent of the bill that was passed, first of all, the bill is not effective until next year. So the session ended this year, or whatever it was, March 4th or something, and schools had to have their budgets approved by, April 1st or whatever it was. So it just wasn't enough time to have it effective this year. So fees were probably the same as they were the year before, this year. The bill is effective next year, and the intent is to have any cost that is required to graduate there's a path to graduation without paying any fees. Maybe that's the best way to say it. So, if you want to take the woods class, and a woods class or pottery or auto mechanics or some of these classes, they can be required if you choose them as an elective, right? Or if you choose an elective, but it's still required, you have to have a certain number of electives, right, art or whatever. There needs to be a path in any of these classes to go without a fee. Now, if you take a woods class and they're building, a little jewelry box or something, but you want to build the armoire, you're probably going to have to pay some more to do that. But there is a pathway to go through school. The intent is to have a pathway to go through school, K through 12, without paying fees.
So let me give you an example. I'm looking not to pick on the Murray School District, but this is the fee schedule I happen to pick up. Calculator rental is $25. Are you saying if a calculator is required for math class, which I would assume it would be, in a child, scientific calculators can get pricey, the school district would have to waive a calculator rental fee because the math class is required, and so is the calculator?
You know what, Debbie? That's a fantastic question. And it goes to the complication of this issue. That's one we've not even talked about that I remember. And so I'm just jotting a note down to say, hey, what do we do about these calculator fees? Is this something that the school needs to charge? Or I don't know the answer to your question. That's a fantastic question.
Well, thanks for your transparency, because I think I just looked. That's the first fee, the general fees on the Murray School District. If you need a link, we've got it. But we also talked about earlier, and Rusty, if you don't mind, I just want to jump in and you talk about football and baseball and those those pricey fees. Is that something that would potentially be waived under this legislation, or no? Because it's not required.
Not at all.
Okay.
So, to be clear, curricular classes that are required should be covered. Now, this is where it gets a little confusing. That's not confusing. Well, I take that back. It is confusing. The curricular classes should be covered. Then you have extracurricular, like baseball and cheerleading and all those things, are not covered. Now, if a student is in a financial situation, family qualifies, they can qualify for a waiver even for those kind of things, if I'm not mistaken. So, but where it gets really complicated is what we call these co-curricular things. So you have a choir, and choir could be required because it's one of your electives. But if you have some aspects of choir outside of class, right? And so we're trying to figure out how to weave that so that it's fair to families and fair to schools.
Yeah, there's a lot of different. So this gets to the point we talked about earlier, Debbie. Thank you, Representative Strong, for joining us today. And where there's a lot of unintended consequences, things you got to iron out on legislation. This is an example of that. So thank you for joining us on that. Next, we're going to talk about an Idaho. Well, we talked about it before. We're going to go back to an issue where in Idaho, they now need parental consent to give a child a Band-Aid. Sounds a little strange, but we're going to talk about the intent behind the law with one of the lawmakers behind it from Idaho next.
It's 11:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bonas. KSL's top local story this hour. Firefighters doing what they can now to slow down the Iron Peak fire burning north of Cedar City. Firefighters spotted the smoke yesterday. They say it's in a location that's difficult to reach, so most of their attack is from aircraft. The fire has burned around 800 acres so far. Former President Donald Trump's visit to Park City next week is being postponed. The fundraising event was originally scheduled for August 29th. Utah's Republican Party confirms it won't be that day. It has to be rescheduled for another date. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. A phone company and a political consultant are paying hefty fines for using artificial intelligence to create President Joe Biden's voice. KSL News Radio's Michael Commit reports.
The voice was used for a phone call sent to thousands of voters in New Hampshire back in January. The fake phone calls were discouraging people from voting in the presidential primary. According to KSL.com, political consultant Stephen Kramer reportedly wanted to highlight the dangers of artificial intelligence by orchestrating the phone call. But now he's facing charges of voter suppression and a proposed $6 million fine.
And the phone company that ran the call also paying a $1 million fine to the FCC. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average now down on the day 208 points right now. NASDAQ is down 175. And our KSL weather, looks like we could see some more thunderstorms this afternoon. That's next. KSL News Time, 11:31.
News doesn't just mean information or dates.
It's the story of our local history being told in real time.
Be a part of the story. This is Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
We hope to be a part of your story. We have you covered on KSL News Radio.
Our children spend a lot of time going to school. They gain an education, social skills, leadership opportunities, and make friends, sometimes for a lifetime. But we also want them to be safe and protected while they're at school.
National Weather Service has
Our school administrators take their responsibility very seriously to plan and prepare for hazards and dangers. As parents, take the opportunity to become familiar with your school's emergency plans. Learn more about how school faculty and staff will respond, communicate with you, and reunite you with your children in an emergency. Look for ways that you can volunteer to help your child's class be better prepared, possibly by assembling mini disaster kits, and discuss emergency plans and protective actions with your children. Designate meeting places outside your home and outside your neighborhood. What should you prepare for? What can happen in our area? And what do you need to keep your family safe? Find out at the Utah Division of Emergency Management's Be Ready Schools program at beready.utah.gov.
Whether you own a local business or a global one, you know that these days, generating growth is a challenge. By teaming with Bank of America, you'll not just stay ahead of the curve, you'll move it. With access to experts, award-winning insights, and business solutions so powerful, you'll make every move matter, locally and globally. Visit bankofamerica.com/banking for business to learn more. What would you like the power to do? Copyright 2024 Bank of America N.A.
When might you be buzzed? When you suddenly love everything.
You guys, I love this song. I love these nachos. I love our kickball league. Ugh! I love this guy. What's your name? You know what I'd love? A ride when it's time to head out.
If you see a buzzed warning sign, call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
I love your car. Is this real leather?
I'm Jeff Jr. with Trajan Wealth, debunking 3 myths about fiduciaries. And you're going to be surprised about myth number 3. Myth number 1. Fiduciaries are too expensive. Not at Trajan Wealth. Our interests are aligned with yours, so we don't need to push costly investments. The more you make, the more we make. It's that simple. Myth number 2. They will only want to sell me something. Absolutely not. At Trajan Wealth, we have hearts of teachers, and it's our goal to educate and empower, not sell. And the biggest myth, myth number 3, fiduciaries are only for the wealthy. Not at Trajan Wealth. Whether you have 50 grand or 50 million, we know it was hard-earned and we'll treat it as such. Let's grow together. So, here's your opportunity for a 100% complimentary professional Q&A. Call Trajan today at 801-899-7600. That's 801-899-7600.
Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. And here's Heather Kelly.
We've got wet road conditions across portions of the Salt Lake Valley. It's hitting the west side belt particularly hard right now. A lot of spray kicking up from tires, reducing visibility, and we've had a crash called out southbound I-215 in Taylorsville. Apparently a vehicle going too fast for the road conditions hit the wall, the left side barrier. Haven't seen that crash yet, but their traffic is slower than normal because of the wet roads. And you're going to see some slowdowns northbound I-15 through Sandy as well because of the rain. It's time to get your tickets for Utah Symphony and Utah Opera this season. Right now, get the best available main floor seats for just $25 at usuo.org/on sale. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
And there's a good chance of thunder showers, potential flash flooding today and tomorrow across the state. Will dry out and cool off Saturday and Sunday. Right now, we have some light rain, thunder, clouds, and wind in downtown Salt Lake. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
In a moment, we're going to be speaking to a lawmaker from Idaho about the intent, the consequences, and any concerns about this new law that's taken effect. And the headline that really caught my attention was from NBC News this morning. Rusty Cannon in today for Dave Noriega, who's still on vacation. And it says, Idaho School District now needs parental consent for Band-Aids and other basic first aid. And my instant mom reaction was, just put a Band-Aid on my kid's skinned knee. You don't need my consent to do that.
Yeah, so Senate Bill 1329 in Idaho, and we talked about this in an earlier segment, is it essentially says an individual shall not furnish a health care service to a minor child without obtaining the prior consent of the minor child's parent. So and we went through kind of the intent of the bill and that kind of thing. So we're lucky enough to have on with us. I know her well. It's exciting. I haven't spoken to her in a few years. Barbara Ehart. She's a member of the Idaho House of Representatives in Idaho. One of the sponsors of the bill. It is so good to talk to you again. I literally think it's been about 6 years since we've spoken, but it is awesome to talk to you again.
Rusty, thank you so much. I completely agree. Much appreciated having you here when you were in Idaho. And if you do happen to confuse me and put me with Utah for a little bit, I'm friends with a lot of your legislators. I would consider that to be an honor.
Well, thank you, and I apologize for the mix-up. So help our listeners understand the intent behind the bill, because the headline is one thing, but I think when we went through the intent, I could see the point. If you can talk about why the bill, and then obviously they've carried that to the letter of the law and said, okay, we're not even given Band-Aids.
Yep. Rusty, you guys, I think we're seeing this now, certainly in Idaho, with quite a number of the laws. It looks like the organizations from the library bill trying to keep pornography out. So now we'll just cut off the whole third floor, and you can't go up there. And to the abortion, we're not even going to give service. Go someplace else. I mean, to this legislation was designed. If you look at what's been happening, basically the state, and oftentimes through the school, they just keep reaching younger and younger down into our kids' lives. Certainly a key one, of which I'm sure you're familiar in Utah, and we have it right here, where kids are being transitioned, being called names at school that they're not calling them. They call them one name at school, another at home. They're doing private counseling, and they're not telling the parents. That's absolutely wrong. And this part of what this legislation was designed to do is to prevent that. We also had a situation just a year and a half ago in Kootenai up north. Kootenai Health brought in, which I think most everybody's starting to get now. They brought in a gal from Dallas, and they started a My Chart. A My Chart would basically a portal or a form where, as you can communicate with your healthcare provider, and literally on the form that I handed out on the floor when I was arguing this last year, it said that at age 13, parents can no longer be included in the conversation. I mean, this stuff goes from vaccinations to whatever it is, on and on and on. They are having conversations, and they're doing things with our kids unbeknownst to our parents. That's what we are trying to stop. And then lo and behold, the Idaho Association of School Boards and all decide to take it to another level. This has got to mean Band-Aids. And they're doing it to basically get the parents riled up and push back against the legislation, saying, yeah, we can't put that. No, we're trying to protect parental rights. We're trying to keep them from having private conversations and transitioning your kids or whatever may be without you knowing about it. And there absolutely are, we have that clause in there for emergency situations. Suicide has come up a lot. Well, for heaven's sakes, we're going to help the kids, but we're then going to turn right back around and tell the parents, we're not keeping these things a secret.
So would this be one of the types of bills where there needs to be some cleanup, to where you guys will clarify in a future session to make sure these things are spelled out, or do you leave it as is?
Yeah. We're actually, ironically, we have a meeting, which is why I was trying to sneak this in right before, but have a meeting planned. I worked with Alliance Defending Freedom. They are a group that I work with a lot, worked with them with my Fairness in Women's Sports. And, we're going to go through that. We've got a member of the AG's office. The AG's office has already spoken and said, this is ridiculous. They can provide first aid. Nonetheless, how we get through what is needed right now, we're going to go through that. And, certainly if we need to clarify a little clause, you can provide first aid, which, we're going to do what's necessary. But it's to me, it becomes very plain. They're doing this to push their own agenda because they don't like what we've done. They don't like parents being involved. Honestly, that's what all of this is coming down to.
Well, by the way, we're speaking with Representative Barbara Ehart. She's out of Idaho. We asked her to call the show because of the headlines, the national headlines that Idaho's been making today and over the last couple of days, talking about Band-Aids. specifically, and that was the headline that really caught my attention, Representative,
Mm-hmm.
was that Idaho School District now needs parental consent for Band-Aids and other basic first aid. As a parent in Utah, my kids went through both private and public schools. I know when I dropped them off at that door every day, I did put my trust in teachers, and we certainly had scrapes and bumps and bruises. And I talked about earlier in the show, one of my kids fell off the top of one of the tall slides and had to go to the hospital. And I wanted teachers and the staff to know, I trust you to make those decisions if my child is injured in the moment. And so I worry that these types of, whether it's legislation or headlines, does make it seem like teachers need to jump through all kinds of hoops just to render basic first aid. Have you been getting a lot of pushback since this story has hit the news?
Well, we've had one school district that started early. It was in, I say one, there might have been a couple, but in the Boise area. And so this is where I was first alerted to it. And make no mistake, nobody's trying to keep teachers from rendering initial first aid. And certainly if somebody falls off and is taken to the hospital, that would be a serious injury, critical, where they say, oh, we'll help then. In my mind, there's absolutely no doubt what's going on here. So if you look at the bigger picture, which I painted, you have to ask yourself, do you want your teachers or your counselors at school to be engaged in secret conversations with your child about confusion on gender dysphoria, maybe transitioning them, maybe calling them another name, and never telling you? See, these are the bigger issues that we're trying to push back on. And because they're upset about this, they're trying to find a way to push back on us and basically force, changes in the law. We're not going to change. What we're going to do is, if we have to make some allowance to make sure that teachers know that they can render first aid, that they absolutely can do that, because that was never part of the conversation. So it was a little bit surprising when that part, was brought up. It's kind of like, I'll just throw this out there because you guys went through it too, but it was kind of like the Fairness of Women's Sports, which I brought when they said, we're going to have private part exams. That was never in the bill, but they would do the misdirection, and that's what happens a lot, in my opinion, a lot of misdirection to take the focus off what we're really trying to do and why it's important.
Well, Idaho Representative Barbara Ehart, thank you for joining the show today. It was a good explanation of the intent behind the bill. It sounds like, Debbie, there were obviously other issues that they were thinking about, and the headline that came out was about Band-Aids, but that wasn't necessarily the intent there. So thank you for joining us today. So next, we are going to talk about apparently a event next week that was going to feature Donald Trump coming to Utah for a fundraiser has been postponed. So we'll talk about that next. Stay right with us.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Current events can have a lot of moving parts. Our job is to make it easy to keep up.
You're part of a bigger world, so spend 15 or 20 minutes here and be part of it.
Join us weekday mornings between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
All right, football fans, it's time to tackle blood shortages.
How can I help out?
Call ARUP Blood Services to donate.
You don't have to be a Cougar, Ute, or Wildcat. Just a UtahBlood.org fan. Help ARUP tackle Utah hospital shortages. Local patients need you to donate. Plus, there's all kinds of cool things ARUP has to thank you. Amazon gift cards, a rowing machine, a drone, spirited teas, a smoker, a barbecue, and a paddleboard. Team up to tackle blood shortages this August with ARUP.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance engineer, he hears things differently. To the untrained ear, everything on his shop floor might sound fine, but he can hear gears grinding or a belt slipping. So he steps in to fix the problem at hand before it gets out of hand. And he knows Grainger's got the right product he needs to get the job done, which is music to his ears. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hey, checking in?
This is not just your flu shot appointment at Walgreens.
Yes. Yeah.
This is getting your entire family vaccinated in one trip.
Hey, Mom?
And a snack on the way out. Get flu shots for everyone in your family, together. Schedule appointments online today. This is wellness made easy. Walgreens.
Vaccine subject to availability and for ages 3+. State and health-related restrictions may apply.
Introducing Peach Doors and Windows. Are you ready to upgrade your home with stunning new windows but are overwhelmed with how to begin? Look no further than Peach Windows. You know at Peach, they are all about giving you options. Peach offers a wide selection of wood windows, sleek modern black metal frames, European tilt and turn windows, plus much, much more. It's not just about looks, it's about durability and security to protect what matters most. Let them help you find the perfect match for your home, budget, and personal style. Visit their showroom and see for yourself. No pushy sales tactics, only guidance from their experienced staff. No inflated markups just to offer so-called discounts. See their 5-star reviews where customers rate them on their attention to detail through every step of the sale and installation process. Amazing home transformations begin with windows and doors. Serving Logan to St. George, just Google Peach Building to see for yourself.
Join Mike Stevens of Capital Wealth Advisors for Retire Right Radio, Saturdays at 5 a.m. and 9 p.m. That's Retire Right Radio with Mike Stevens, Saturdays at 5 a.m. and 9 p.m.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. Forza Commercial is a premier commercial real estate firm specializing in development, property management, and equity raising here in Utah and across the United States. Principal Chris Hatch joins us with more.
Forza Commercial is a privately held commercial real estate company based in Salt Lake City, Utah. Our company is focused on delivering a full set of commercial real estate services to local and national real estate clients. We are consisted of 3 separate teams: Forza Capital, Forza Management, and Forza Development. Forza Capital raises equity with a pool of investors for our development projects and some third-party developer projects. Forza Development focuses primarily on building new retail projects. One of our passions is to recycle old, defunct buildings and make them new again. We currently have projects going with Cafe Rio, Dutch Bros, In-N-Out Burger, Starbucks, and Wells Fargo. Forza Management provides professional third-party property management for clients throughout the Western U.S. I feel privileged to work around the 40 talented individuals at our office. I'm blown away daily with their professionalism and expert knowledge.
Forza Commercial is dedicated to providing top-notch commercial real estate services to all clients, big or small. To learn more about the services they provide, visit their website, forzacommercial.com. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, firefighters are working to get ahead of an 800-acre wildfire burning in Iron County. Second, former President Trump has postponed a fundraising trip to Utah that had been planned for next week. And third, the businesses behind an AI impersonation of President Biden will be paying some big fines. Right now, 82 degrees with the clouds and wind in Salt Lake City. And back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Well, we got notified not too long ago, and the Deseret News has published an article that President Trump, former President Trump's visit to Utah is postponed.
Postponed again,
yeah.
It looks like. Yeah, he was going to come next week for a fundraiser in Park City, and according to Deseret.com, Samuel Benson wrote a good article. It looks like that has been postponed again.
So I'm interested to get your insights on this. Rusty Cannon in today for Dave Noriega. Rusty is, been in the political circles. Is it fair to say for quite some time in Utah? And you also work. You're president of the Utah Credit Union Association. You were just talking earlier in the show. We were talking about the constitutional amendment that you spent yesterday on Capitol Hill in interim meetings. And so I'm curious to know, when you see this headline that Trump has postponed his visit to Utah, did that surprise you?
Well, it didn't surprise me too much. Oftentimes, so to be clear, this was a fundraising event, which is very different than a political event. And oftentimes on presidential campaigns, this doesn't get written about a lot, or talked about a lot. Is they will make multiple stops every day, and obviously flying from state to state, maybe for a fundraiser in the morning, you do a political event at noon, then you go to an afternoon fundraiser somewhere else, and then you have a dinner somewhere else that's maybe also a fundraiser. This happens all the time, and as schedules change, this looks like this was apparently going to happen in June. It was postponed because of events in June, and then looks like postponed again. Interesting to note, Sam does mention in the article that according to a person close to the deliberations, the infighting that's been going on with the Republican Party in the gubernatorial election did become a concern to campaign officials and maybe had something to do with the delay.
And they don't really elaborate much more at this point on that, but we do know that there had been lawsuits filed and then dismissed, and now the governor himself has called for a legislative audit of the signature gathering that happened leading up to the primary, which he gathered signatures. Of course, Phil Lyman, his challenger on the primary ballot, had won in convention. And this has been an ongoing news story ever since the convention was held in the spring. Mm-hmm. So the Desert News noting that the perceived infighting within the Utah Republican Party, like the gubernatorial candidate Phil Lyman's write-in campaign, concerns top Trump campaign officials. But don't know for sure if that's indeed what led to the postponement of his event. It was supposed to happen.
This will likely happen. I mean, at some point, the article mentions they had garnered over apparently $8 million in commitments, which is not unusual for that.
What do you mean by that?
So in events like this, in a presidential year, the limits that can be given to a presidential candidate go way up. It's actually up to $500,000 that an individual can give. Believe it or not.
Eye-popping numbers.
Yeah, it's an eye-popping number. There are people that will write those checks. Not a lot, but there are those. And so that's how you can have an event that can garner something like $8 million, and why the price tags are high. Now, let me be clear. This is on both sides of the aisle that this happens, right? Whether President Biden came or President Trump comes, the price tags are typically about the same. But in a presidential year, yes, there are figures like this tossed around. And so it's not uncommon to have an event, whether it's in Utah or California or somewhere else. I would say $8 million is on the low end for a place like California, but it's a lot of money, and so they'll obviously come to where that can happen. So it's not unusual to delay them or change them, but they're I'm sure going to still have it.
When they announced his visit, or that he was planning to come here for the fundraiser, I was a little surprised that he was making a stop in Utah, and I'll tell you why. Because to me, he's got Utah locked up.
Oh, yeah, electorally,
but
yes.
you brought something up when we were chatting about this as we were coming back from break, that this is a fundraiser. It's not a rally. It would be a fundraiser. Mm-hmm. And money is money in a political campaign, and he's got $8 million in commitments, and hence why he would want to stop in Utah.
Yeah.
I would have thought, and this is also what this article talks about, is that the more the focus will be on the states that they're not sure which way yet they're going to go, like Arizona. And
battleground states is where you want to spend your time on the political events. Absolutely. Now, often they'll go hand in hand, right? There I'm sure donors in Arizona as well, and you'd string together events. Anybody that's followed a presidential campaign, these days are constant. Meaning you're at a breakfast event, you go to another event. I mean, literally, you might do 6 events in a day, a mix of political versus fundraising. But you bring up a good point. The battleground states, to where all these candidates should be now, politically, that's where they'll be. I mean, during this election cycle, Democrats have had 3 fundraisers in Utah, hosted by, I believe, still up in the Park City area, where President Biden had visited for a similar type of event. These are common, and they happen on both sides of the aisle. But it looks like this one is just not going to happen as planned.
The Democratic National Convention. Special coverage with Dave and Dujanovic.
Well, tonight is Kamala Harris's big chance, particularly to reach out and grab undecided voters. Rusty, what does she have to do tonight in her speech?
I think, they're not taking my advice, but if I was to give advice, I would say brief and brilliant is always better. And we made the case, we talked about this earlier with Boyd and on some other segments, that Waltz did a very good job of being brief and having that rhythm, I'd call it, to where your applause lines are well timed. You know when to take a break. Don't get interrupted by unexpected applause lines. You got to plan all that out. So that would be something that I think would be a good idea. As to how she rolls it out, I have no idea.
She's got to keep the energy in the room up.
Yeah.
I think she has to step away from the Trump bashing. There's been a lot of that over the last 3 nights. I don't know if they have that in them to refrain from that. Boyd Matheson pointed out earlier that those have kind of started to lose the audience there in the arena, and they all start to sound.
It was interesting.
The digs start to sound the same.
Yeah, his that was really perceptive when he talked about Pelosi delivering those attack lines and barely got golf claps, as he described it. And in the 3 minutes that Waltz sort of lost him, I wonder if she'll do the same. I literally have no idea if she's going to do that. It has been normal for them to be attacking President Trump in their speeches. I wouldn't be surprised if she does, but who knows?
Who knows if they can help themselves? I think this is an important moment for her to tell us who she is and what she will do for the country. Tim Walz, I thought her VP nominee did a good job of introducing, whether you agree with his policies or not, introducing how he was as governor after he served 12 years in Congress.
Then I came back to serve as governor, and we got right to work, making a difference in our neighbors' lives. We cut taxes for the middle class. We passed paid family and medical leave. We invested in fighting crime and affordable housing. We cut the cost of prescription drugs and helped people escape the kind of medical debt that nearly sank my family. And we made sure that every kid in our state gets breakfast and lunch every day. So while other states were banning books from their schools, we were banishing hunger from ours.
You know, that moment reminded me a lot of Vance when he did his speech at the RNC. One of the good moments I thought for him is when he talked about his mother. You know, she had been an addict and is only clean, I think, a year or two. And then he had her stand. That was pretty cool and I thought pretty genuine. He was going down that same line that I thought was good of just genuinely sharing who he is and what he believes and staying brief. I know I keep saying that over and over, but he was staying brief. That's what you got to do.
Yeah, his speech, from what I saw last night, was about 15 minutes. I think it was one of the shortest speeches of the convention so far. The Obama, especially President Obama, was good. Went a lot longer than I had anticipated. We'll see if Kamala Harris is able to keep it brief, but as perhaps brilliant tonight.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, remember the 3 Bs.
KSL Salt Lake City. From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio,
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Good afternoon. KSL News Time is 12 o'clock noon, and this is Utah's Noon News. I'm Maria Shaleos. It's raining in downtown Salt Lake City. The temperature dropped to 73 degrees. KSL's top story this hour, the Salt Lake County District Attorney is not filing any charges against officers who opened fire on a man in Magda in November. KSL News Radio's Amy Kobabe is live with what we know. Amy?
Maria, this was just after midnight on November 15th. Officers responded to calls from